All right, welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 World Tour. This is episode 27. We will be taking off from Merignac, France, if that's how you pronounce it. As I'm recording this, it is Saturday, November 2nd, 2024 at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which means I think it's about 4:30 p.m. in France. I left the live weather and time on. I think we'll have enough sunlight, and it appears that the visibility is good enough to where we will be able to see. We will change it if we need to, but I think it's good as is. I've got college game day playing on a background TV. I'll be doing some stuff while the flight's going, and then checking back on it occasionally. But we are going to be taking off here from Merignac, France, however you pronounce it, and flying west. We're kind of by Bordeaux. We're going to fly around Bordeaux, see what we can see. And then I'm looking around the area on my map app on my phone. We could try to get down to Toulouse, but I think what I'm going to do, maybe we could go to the Pyrenees National Park. And then we could fly over Pamplona, over to Bilbao, however you pronounce that, and then kind of along the Cantabrian Mountains on the northern coast of Spain until we get to kind of the northwest tip, and then fly down through Portugal and all that. We'll see what all we get to today. But for podcasts, we are going to be listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show, as we usually do. We'll play this week's podcast starting with Monday. So that'd be Monday, October 28th, I believe. He'll be talking a lot about the Washington Commanders' Hail Mary that defeated the Chicago Bears. And then we'll go into Wednesday's show and Friday's show if we have time. But for now, I'm going to fire up the Tony Kornheiser Show from Monday, October 28th, and we'll go from there.
Hey, it's Tony. On today's show, we'll talk to Michael Wilbon, see how he's doing after what happened to his Bears on Sunday. We'll also talk to Mark Feinsand to get his thoughts on the World Series so far. But first, how about a little commerce, kids?
Explaining football magic is in the air. Previously on the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Broadcast the Yankees, and then he broadcast the Dodgers. And he has told the story on the air, and I've told the story on the air. When he was 7 years old, he sat in front of his television set in Malvern, Long Island, with a big microphone in his hand, much like the Hammer is doing with the podcast, and broadcast Dodger games. Because they were still in Brooklyn, he broadcast Dodger games. He actually does that now. He lives his dream. How many people can say this? He lives his dream. And I'm so glad to believe that he is healthy.
The Tony Kornheiser Show is on now.
To all the people that were moved by me talking about Charlie Steiner and sent in emails, thank you very much. Appreciate that. So there's a lot of things I could talk about. You know, I could talk about bringing in the peppers, cutting down all the vegetables for the last time.
Final yield on the harvest?
Yeah, as meager as it is. Talk about bills that I get and going through the bills, which nobody does. Nobody under the age of 40 does, and I do. And I have a good story about that. But
They're not your recent online purchase?
not my recent online purchase. No.
Interrupted dinner to go field that phone call.
I did. It was a wonderful dinner, too. The boys and you and Liz, it was a wonderful dinner. And I'm going to talk about what everybody expects me to talk about. And that is that play yesterday. The end of the game. The end of the Washington-Chicago game. Wilbon will be on later, and he will give you his take on it. And I'm sure that he will tell you that he and his son saw it coming. Saw it, that said, oh, they're going to get the Hail Mary. I was not one of those people. Look, I've been to all the most important games of this franchise in the last 50 years. Because there haven't been any important games of this franchise in the last 25 to 30 years. I went to all the Super Bowls that they won and they lost, with one exception, because I didn't live here then. The one that they lost to Miami in the undefeated season. I didn't go to that. I was, in New York at that point. But the 4 Super Bowls that they went to and the playoffs that got them there, I've been to those games. And I've obviously seen them win incredibly important games. 3 different times they were Super Bowl champions. 3 different times. In a period period of about, I don't know, 11 or 12 years.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Something like that. Never saw anything like this. I mean, there are games that are decided on these Hail Marys. Famous games. I think Aaron Rodgers has had one. I thought that the Dallas Cowboys did this to Washington once.
Yeah, I know that they did to the Vikings stallback, I think.
I
Tony
think it
Hill.
was somebody else in an exhibition game maybe did it to Washington. But you don't see this happen very often, and the reason you don't, I mean, I saw the Flutie game, so I know how it happens.
Saw it up close.
I saw the
In zone.
Flutie game, and again, what was the most important thing, what was the most important takeaway of the Flutie game? Well, it was that Gerard Phelan was behind everyone. Why was he behind everyone? You know if Flutie's going to throw it to the end zone, why isn't somebody guarding Gerard Phelan? Why is the Washington guy alone?
All by himself.
Why is
He's got to box out.
Why isn't somebody on him? Why is that? So I understand that you go up to bat the ball down.
One person goes up. Yeah.
I
Not
don't
everyone.
understand why you go up and tap the ball up.
Yeah. It's not a jump ball.
It is, I've never seen anything like this where I felt personally involved. I don't feel nearly as personally involved anymore, but believe me, in those years when I was a sports writer and I was going to these games, I felt very personally involved. They can't win that game. Look, here's what's true. It's going to be one of the most disappointing losses in the history of the franchise. Chicago scores with 25 seconds to go.
Washington had the lead for 59 and a half minutes. That's a better way to look at it.
They had it 12-0, then it was 12-7, then Chicago should have scored earlier, but they handed the ball off to a lineman thinking it was the fridge, and it didn't work. Then they got it back again, and they went down the field, and Caleb Williams, who was dreadful for 2.5 to 3 quarters, terrible, and probably because he felt inordinate pressure having come from this area. The Gonzaga football team was there. They were holding the flag in the pregame. So he probably felt terrible pressure. And Jaden Daniels, he wasn't any good either. Okay, he was okay. He wasn't great. He wasn't great.
Seemed to get more and more layers as the game went on to protect that rib.
Yes, yes. So it was two very highly skilled 1 and 2 draft picks who are going to be really, really good, but they weren't really, really good in this game.
A little extra pressure when you find out that Washington claims to have wanted Daniels all along.
That's right.
It might have led to what that first 3 quarters looked like.
That's right. So it's going to be one of the most disappointing losses ever. And now, it's one of the greatest wins of all time. And I don't know, like Wilbon talks about this all the time. I guess everybody in America has Wilbon's phone number. I guess. But not everybody in America has mine. And I had, for the first time in my life, that notion of my phone blowing up. I'm holding my phone in my hand, and there'll just ding after ding after ding after ding, which means you're getting a text message.
Can't keep up with it.
Now, I'm not on a text chain. I'm getting them from Jeannie, I'm getting them from DG, I'm getting them from,
Santi. I love sports. I love sports. Yeah, that's always the great.
Adam Mandel, I'm getting them from people,
Richard Dent.
Jared. I'm not getting Richard Dent. I don't have Hall of Famers. I'm not on a text chain. I don't have that. And I'm trying to answer.
I'm getting text messages about Wilbon's text chain.
Yeah. I'm trying to answer everybody, and I'm falling behind. And basically, I settled on the word unbelievable. It felt to me literally unbelievable. Jeannie settled on the word miraculous. Everybody's got their own view of this, but it's just fabulous. I mean, Jaden Daniel will be Rookie of the Year. He's got this.
Yeah.
He's got this. This is going to do it. As lucky as it may have been, this is the thing that's going to do it.
Sure, that was lucky, but even if you listen to the plays immediately before it, and I thought Romo did a
Tony
very
Romo
good job
did a great
defining
job.
exactly what you need to do in terms of yards and where it needs to
Tony
go out of
Romo said
bounds
you
to
do
get
it
a
out,
chance.
you get to the sidelines, it won't take more than 3 seconds.
Yeah, and it's 10 to 12 yards, maybe
And
it gets you 13.
Yeah, and kudos to Tony Romo on that one. He got that completely right. You look at the play, and it reminded me, I think I have this right, 4 people in rush lanes, but they didn't really rush Daniels. They didn't really rush him. They were trying to contain him, keep him from going to the outside. I never understood this. To me, throw 7 guys at him. Make him throw the ball much earlier and without the comfort that he wanted to. This reminded me, if I'm not mistaken, of Auburn, Alabama last year.
Oh, yeah.
Where Jalen Milroe had an hour. Both these guys had 35 seconds. The clock had long since expired before the ball was in the air. They had all the time in the world. And I think I would have done that differently. I certainly would not have let, and it's again, Gerard Phelan, I would not have let him behind everybody. They got a bunch of guys down there. Somebody says, ooh, who's he? Let's get behind him. Let's not let something
There's just something so instinctual to jump for a ball.
Yeah.
Well, when you're one of the defensive players, and as the play is beginning, you have your back to it, and you're taunting the home field crowd, then rush over to tip the ball into the hands of the Washington player. Maybe he should have been focused on that.
Well, he has since apologized.
Probably should.
Yeah, he's since apologized for that. I don't know if he was allowed on the flight back. I don't know if he's with the Bears anymore.
Yeah.
But within a minute, Wilbon was firing the offensive coordinator, firing this guy and firing that guy. Wilbon says, we're going to get to Wilbon. We got to get to Wilbon.
But how much can a franchise change in what feels like
Overnight.
6 months? Where all of a sudden you're getting the national afternoon 4:25 game weeks in a row. It feels like.
It's almost as if Daniel Snyder didn't ruin the team.
Right. And I had that when I saw the play happening. And I just have to confess, when Snyder owned the team, I really didn't enjoy the success for them because I just didn't like him and I wanted them to lose. And that feeling was completely gone as that developed.
If you watched on the sideline before Washington got the ball back, you could have seen Josh Harris bemoaning the fact that Chicago scored. Because any reasonable person would understand and know this game's over. Chicago has won this game. It's really something. The Washington Capitals won the Stanley Cups, wonderful. All those watch parties, wonderful. The Washington Nationals won the World Series 5 years ago, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And there were moments in all of those games that are thrilling. This is, nobody who saw this is forgetting this. Nobody. This is something that's etched in your memory forever because it couldn't happen. It's not like a home run, which can happen. This can't happen.
Right, like even the Kendrick Grand Slam, there is a blueprint to follow to get to that point, and you can see it. But the boys had slowly gone upstairs for bedtime. I'm by myself in the darkness, and all of a sudden they hear the primal scream from downstairs. And Ben came down. He's like, "Are you okay?" I made the whole family watch it again.
Yeah,
oh, that's tremendous.
Really amazing. We will get out of here. We'll bring on Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof like Aloe, Allbirds, or Skims, so if you're into growing your business, your commerce list.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is the Indochino read. With weddings to galas, fall brings more opportunity to dress up. Indochino makes it easy to get custom men's and women's wear that will turn heads, made-to-measure suits, dress shirts, blazers, and more. And Indochino's latest fall-winter collection combines classic tailoring with contemporary aesthetics, inspired by Europe's most iconic designers. Just visit Indochino.com to browse the collection, and then use the code TONYK for 10% off orders of $399 or more. You have all their suits.
I do, as does Michael has at least one, right? Yeah. Oh, hold on. Let me unmute your microphone. And I'm in the middle of the second wedding season, the fall edition of wedding season. Yes. Imagine my surprise when I look at a blazer just lightly draped over the back of a chair this past weekend, Chan's, and I see the label Indochino.
Fantastic.
Chance on board. That's
Fantastic.
on board. Willie knows you can design it any way you like. It's a great price. All about that lining. Yes, all about the lining. And the pen pocket.
Yes. The fall-winter collection skillfully infuses traditional tailoring with modern sharp lines for the perfect finishing touch. Plus, you can design the suit of your dreams and fine-tune every detail, including lapels, linings, monograms, pocket flaps, pen holders, as Michael said. There you go. And you can get a tailored fit from home. All you have to do is set up your measurement profile on Indochino's website and measure twice. Choose your customization without even leaving the house. Or you can have premium in-person experience.
All about the yak.
Book an appointment at a showroom near you and let an Indochino style guide walk you through every step. This fall, update your wardrobe to quintessential suiting elements with contemporary flair from Indochino. Visit Indochino.com and use the code TONYK to get 10% off any purchase of $399 or more. That's 10% off at INDOCHINO.com. The promo code is TONYK. Use the code, people.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show. Tony Kornheiser Show.
I think we can agree that a dollar bill is worth more if it's not soaked in urine. I'm the manager of a convenience store. This is Norwegian soft kip. Chuck and Roxy, number 295. And Glenn writes in, 3 weeks to compose a song? It took us an hour and 18 minutes to compose. I'm the manager of a convenience store. Eat it, Gershwin. Totally brilliant. And it plays in Michael Wilbon. And I will just start with this. In the first round of games yesterday, there were like 6 or 7 fantastic endings. And Mike and I were on the phone talking about them, you know, as those games ended. There were like the Jacksonville game, the Colts game, the New England game, the Tampa Bay game, you know, the Arizona game, the Cleveland-Baltimore game. Fantastic endings, any one of which could lead a television show or podcast the next day. And they're gone now. They don't exist now. We'll talk about them, but they don't exist. What exists is one ending. 2 touchdowns in a span of 25 seconds. The game is going to go from being one of the worst defeats, most emotional defeats in one franchise's history, to one of the greatest emotional victories in one franchise's history. It could be either franchise. Could be either one. I've set you up. Tell me what you thought as you watched all of it.
You know, first of all, I'm in a vile mood this morning, as I have been in my adult life, save Double Doink.
Okay.
And Bartman.
Right.
So other than those 2, you're the first person I've talked to about, you know, since 7 o'clock last night. I just didn't know reason to speak. I'm that angry. And everybody who followed, every Bears fan is that angry. And Shane Waldron, who was the object of everyone's ire for handing the ball to a backup lineman on the goal line.
Yeah.
That guy. So the discussion entirely for group texts and phone calls and whoever Bears fans watched the game was, is this guy fired? Is this a fireable offense?
Right now, we got Ohio State and Penn State about to start. Number 3 versus number 4. Nebraska just barely lost to Ohio State last week, so I'm kind of hoping they do good today, but we'll see. Penn State, it's at Penn State, so they'll probably win, but about to start.
That was the only topic.
Well, you wanted to fire him. We talked before.
Yeah, it was fine. Yeah. And I was just saying this. I'm on the group text with former Bear players who used the word fireable. Okay?
Yeah.
So it wasn't just like a knee-jerk reaction of a fan. But once they come back and they get to leave with 25 seconds left, that guy is sort of off the hook. Your anger is no longer directed at him. You're gonna win the game. You're gonna steal a game. But except, you know what, Tony, so my thoughts were this, because I said this out loud, and I'm watching with Matthew. And I just said, there's too much time left, and this kid throws the best Hail Mary other than Aaron Rodgers, because he throws the ball so high and so far. It's going to be a pass interference in the end zone, which is how we scored.
Yes.
There's going to be a pass interference in the end zone, and the Washington team's going to get Baltimore. That's going to happen. And so we were convinced that was going to happen. So the fact that they won wasn't a shock to me, because I'm saying this other thing out loud. But the way it happened, and in the aftermath, where you see what is going on with Stevenson in a video that is not on the air live at the time, because they're showing, just the game tightly. And then people have, because every single person in the world has a phone and thinks he's Citizen Kane. There's video of
Twitter,
Yes.
taunting Washington fans and being told by the Bears fans, hey dude, the game is still going on. Their point, they direct him. The Bears fans in that section, he looks at them and goes, what, huh? And it's so the way it happened is so, and you just your first thoughts are it's a fluke. It's a Hail Mary, it's a fluke. But then it isn't. Because the head coach angrily says, and he doesn't get angry, he just doesn't. He's not that guy. This is not Bill Parcells or Ridiculous. He says, we practice this 100 times a week. And basically what happens is, and you and I knew this again because I'm on the phone, I'm on group checks with former NFL players who say, no. The assignment is not everybody goes and jumps to knock it down. There are a couple of guys whose assignment is you block out like the rebounds, like a basketball play, and it's taught that way, and they work on it that way, and they practice it that way. And so if you were tussling with him, and the ball was tipped around, he called you anyway, okay, but you weren't tussling because you were taunting the fans of the other team. And so now the discussion goes to, do you cut this kid? Do you suspend him? What do you do with him? Because the Bears season is over for the playoffs. The Bears season is over.
That's exactly what Rex Ryan said today on TV. He says it's done. They're done. Really?
You have to understand the conditions. First of all, the Bears have the toughest schedule left in the league. We knew that going into yesterday. Number one, not 5 or 7 or one of the toughest. They haven't played a division game yet, and they live in the toughest division in the NFL.
Yes.
They got 6 games left with the Vikings, Lions, and Packers. How does that sound?
It doesn't sound like 6-0.
Not to mention games at San Francisco, at Seattle, and at Phoenix this week. So, look, they might not have made it anyway, but you got to win that game to go 5-2 because you got to absorb some losses. So, maybe in your last 8 you go 4-4, and that gets you to 9 or 10, but no, they're done. This season's over.
So let me get to 2 things, and you'll know them both well. And I talked about them at the open of the show. One is the Flutie pass, in which Gerard Phelan is behind everyone, and everyone says, how did he get behind everyone? How did that happen? The second one is last year Auburn, Alabama, where they didn't really rush Milroe. They gave him 30 seconds, and he went down the field, and he made the pass. These are 2 things that I'm asking you as a Bears fan. How can the Washington guy be unguarded, and how can they not rush this kid and try to get him over the line where he can't win?
One of the great things is, in the last week, Aaron Rodgers threw one of these last week. It was halftime.
Yes.
And there was great discussion, whoever was doing the game, and subsequently, about whether you rush 2, 3, 5. And yesterday, in an earlier game, the Colts, who were the Colts playing?
Houston.
Okay. The Colts were in this situation where Anthony Richardson is trying to, and he can throw it 70 yards.
And he couldn't get the pass off.
That's because they rushed 5.
Yes.
So now you've got so many things at work here. And I'm glad I'm not at home today. Or although maybe I'd like to be there because I'm so angry that nothing can absorb the anger anyway. So I may as well just participate in the civic discussion. And because it's not, the worst place I can live and be is Washington, D.C. It's the worst place. I don't want to be here. I started last night, I came fairly close to just going to the airport and getting on the last place I want to be here is here. And yesterday at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my dear friend Mark Hine, who you know how much I love Mark Hine, who was one of the Washington Commander owners, I texted me and said, come on now, don't you want to be here? You got time, we'll take care of you. I said, no. because something crazy is going to happen. I don't want to be there. The last place I want to be is there. I remember one year when Brad Muster, no one listening to this remembers, fumbled in RFK, and the Bears lost the lead when the Bears and Washington Redskins were really, really good playoff teams. And I didn't want to be here for a week. This is 100,000 times worse than that. And so now the coach, there's some things that Matt Eberflus does very well. And you now know that. You say, look at how his defense played yesterday. His quarterback, his star, gave him nothing.
Nothing for 3 quarters.
His offensive coordinator gave him nothing. They couldn't even find a tight end who's the size of Shaquille O'Neal. They couldn't even find him. They were so awful. And that defense played like the 85 defense. That defense was lights out. So that coach does some things well. But apparently, there are things he doesn't do well. Like one of them, I'm told, is confront. So what's he going to do with this kid today? What's he going to do with him? Stevenson. And he doesn't, the end of game things he doesn't do well. So the other thing that took place is, Tony, I don't know, you weren't watching the real game. You're watching Red Zone.
Until the last
broadcast.
6 minutes or so, yeah.
All right, well, the game broadcast that you heard.
I heard what Romo said. I heard Romo call the play.
The most important play is the one coming up.
That's
now.
right. He said you do an out for 10 to 12 yards and it'll only take 3 seconds. I heard that, and he was 100% right. 100%.
Rodney Harrison said, having played for one Bill Belichick, he said, oh, no, Belichick would never just let you complete that pass.
Right.
And so much of what we practice situationally was not letting you have that.
Don't get to the end line. Right, don't get out of bounds.
So then a guy with broken ribs maybe can't reach the end zone. So Eberflus, as great a defensive coach as he seems to be, he failed on that detail. So now you have what looked like just a fluke situation turning into an inquisition for the rest of the month or the season. You have an indictment of a coaching staff, starting with the offensive coordinator and including your head coach. You have a player who now has to just basically go into witness protection in Chicago. And who's a really good player. He's a second-year player who's really good. But he's got a temper. He got a 15-yard penalty for putting his finger in the face mask of a guy yesterday. So now you have a team that is going to steal a victory and have one of the great stolen victories in its history.
All time. Better
on the road in Washington, a team that has been playing against since 1937.
It's going to be one of the greatest wins or one of the greatest losses, regardless of how it goes. It is. Right? It is. And it goes.
We get this.
Yeah. It goes the wrong way for you.
I probably got 100 texts from people last night who live here and who have lived here and who have been fans of the franchise like this. I haven't talked to them. I'm not talking to anybody from Washington, D.C. except you until like Friday at the earliest. So if people are listening to this, Neville, Eddie Cornwell, Derek McKenzie, David Aldridge, I am not talking to any of you people. Joan Wilbon, Brittany Wilbon. I'm not talking to any of you. I don't want to talk to you.
Okay.
I don't want people calling me back from restaurants. Don't call me from Foon Lin. I don't want to talk to anyone here. No one.
All right, I will sadly talk to you later. We're going to do a television show. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Michael Wilbon, boys and girls. Everything you hoped it would be. We didn't talk about the World Series. I know he's involved in it. We have not talked about, we will with Mark Feinstein, but Wilbon's involved in the World Series. I'm involved in the World Series. We didn't talk about college football. The fact that Oregon went out and destroyed Illinois, that Notre Dame destroyed Navy, that Ohio State almost got beat by Nebraska.
Yeah.
You know, that we didn't do any of that. Wilbon loves the NBA. We didn't mention because the agenda for today in this city, the capital of the United States of America, is that football game. And we will be back to talk about the World Series with Mark Feinstein. I'm Tony Kornheiser. You're
listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is the Rosetta Stone, Reed. Are you looking to learn a new language? Maybe like me, you're planning to go bungee jumping off of bridges all over the world, and you want to be able to talk to the locals before you go. If that's the case, then you want to use Rosetta Stone, the most trusted language learning program, which is available on desktop or as an app, and it's the program that truly immerses you in the language you want to learn. Rosetta Stone has been a trusted expert for 30 years with millions of users and 25 languages offered like Portuguese, Korean, Dutch, many more. Utilizing fast language acquisition, Rosetta Stone immerses you in many ways. There are no English translations, so you really learn to speak, listen, and think in that language. Plus, it's convenient with desktop and app options and an audio companion that gives you the ability to download lessons offline. Best of all, it's amazing value. Lifetime membership has all 25 languages for any and all trips and language needs in life. It's normally a $399 program, but with our code, you can get it just for $199. Don't put off learning that language. There's no better time than right now to get started. For a very limited time, our listeners can get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off. That's 50% off unlimited access to 25 language courses for the rest of your life. Redeem your 50% at rosettastone.com/Tony today.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Whether you love true crime or comedy, celebrity interviews or news, you call the shots on what's in your podcast queue. And guess what? Now you can call them on your auto insurance too, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive. It works just the way it sounds. You tell Progressive how much you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll show you coverage options that fit your budget. Get your quote today at Progressive.com to join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Last time the Yanks and Dodgers faced off in the Fall Classic. So long ago it happened at the end of the Jurassic. You can look it up, the Yankees fell to LA. And the scary moment happened when Gossage beat Say. Goose Gossage was the hard-throwing Yankee reliever. Say stepped in front of Rick Cerrone, the Yankee receiver. Cerrone was only there because of Munson's tragic crash. Say was the Penguin still 33 and brash. In 81, Ronald Reagan was still new in office. Just 6 years since the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa. I was fresh out of college. Now I get my share of unsolicited queries from Blue Cross and Medicare. Gossage threw the pitch, it hit the Penguin in the head. You could be forgiven thinking the Penguin might be dead. He felt a little dizzy, but to answer all your queries, the Penguin walked away and helped the Dodgers win the series. Those were the days of hostages, of communists and Ronnie. Now we've got the internet and Judge and Ohtani. We've got the Yanks and Dodgers. History comes round once again. The Fall Classic's back and soon we'll have a champion. Woo!
It's brilliant. Dan Burns, brilliant. He's just so brilliant. Mark Feinstein is listening. He's brilliant, isn't he? He's brilliant.
I wish I was as brilliant as Dan Burns. He's amazing.
Wow. That's
What did
just,
Jimmy Hoffa?
that's just great. I want to talk about the World Series, but you're a fan of the quarterback of the Washington football team, you and your son, right? What was that like watching that?
So I looked at him after the game and I said, "You realize, like, I'm changing your name to James." Say about that. Like, I was willing to. I sort of backed off the rib injury. I'm like, you know what? That's a little fragile. It may get hurt. I feel bad. He got hurt. I changed my son's name. After the Hail Mary, he looked at me with that look of like inevitability of like, yeah, I don't think you have a choice anymore. It was the most exciting moment I've had as a Commanders fan since, well, I'd say Washington fan, since probably 1991. We were all in the bandwagon. I can't. It was absolutely. My wife said the look on my face before the play and after the play, it was like I was two different human beings.
It's going to be, I've said this 100 times today, it's going to be one of the worst losses in one of these franchises' history and one of the greatest wins in one of these franchises' history, because the Super Bowls that Washington has won, and they've won more than the Bears. Bears have won one, Washington's won three. They didn't come down to this. Nothing comes down to this. It doesn't come down to this. All right, this is wonderful.
All right, we've got the Fox Big Noon guys picking who's going to win between Ohio State and Penn State in State College, Pennsylvania. Most was pretty equally split on College Game Day between who thinks Ohio State would win and who thinks Penn State would win. Pat McAfee picked Penn State. Lee Corso picked Ohio State. Kirk Herbstreit picked Ohio State. So pretty evenly split. And here it looks like Urban Meyer picks Ohio State by 1. Looks like Matt Leinart picks Penn State by 4. Looks like Mark Ingram picks Penn State by 1. And I missed the last pick. I missed Brady Quinn's pick. Penn State's about to come on the field. I'm just classifying a college football video I just did on my PlayStation. And I'll put the podcast back on. It's taking me forever to find the teams. There's one of them. Alright, game's about to start. Should be a good one. Then Nebraska, of course, plays UCLA later. This is probably our last real attempt to get bowl eligible for 2024. We've got USC, Wisconsin, and Iowa after that. All games we'll probably lose, but we'll see. You never know. My boys surprised me last week against Ohio State. Almost won the game, but of course didn't. Here we go. Ohio State and Penn State about to start. I'm going to put the Tony Kornheiser show back on as we fly south, kind of towards the Pyrenees, and we'll go towards Pamplona, and then eventually towards Bilbao, Spain, as we make our way south and then west.
Because, as you can imagine, talking to Wilbon, we had no time for the World Series. I haven't mentioned it at all. And it's been great. I haven't mentioned it. It's 2-0.
What did he think of the end of the Bears game?
Oh, he said I almost got on a plane for Chicago last night. I don't want to be here in Washington. No, you have to hear it. It's wild. All right, it's 2-0 Dodgers. What have we learned?
Well, we've learned that the Dodgers pitching isn't quite as bad as people were worried it might be. We've learned that Freddie Freeman is the modern-day Kirk Gibson, and one of the really most amazing moments of this postseason and really any postseason in recent memory.
Yes.
Although I was a little bummed, it was a double fist pump as he rounded first base, because that was pretty amazing to see. But I think what we've learned is the Dodgers are the best team in baseball this year for a reason. But we know that these series have a way of going game to game, and if the Yankees win game 3, all of a sudden there will be a little bit of pressure on the Dodgers. So, until somebody wins a road game, I don't necessarily know that we've learned much other than that the Dodgers did what they had to do in Los Angeles.
All right, there are 2 specific questions, and I'll take them in order of games. Do you agree with Aaron Boone walking bats in Game 1? And did the Yankees blow Game 2, considering they had bases loaded, 1 out in the 9th?
First question, I agree with walking bets, because if you were going to have Nestor Cortez in there, that might be the question I wonder what I agree with. Walking bets to get the lefty-lefty matchup, I think that was the right move. You got Otani out, and if you don't walk bets there was an open base, and you've got a situation where you'd rather have you brought in the lefty Cortez, knowing that Otani and Freeman are both lefties, and you probably weren't going to pitch the bet. So didn't have an issue with that. Cortez hadn't pitched in 5 weeks. That might have been my bigger issue. I might have liked to have seen Tim Hill or almost anybody else out there, because that's a tough spot to put a guy in. And as good as Mr. Cortez has been for the Yankees, that's a tough spot to put a guy in who hasn't been on a major league mound in 5 weeks. Say, okay, extra innings, go. Here's Shohei Otani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. That's number one. Number two, the biggest problem the Yankees had is that they really didn't have anybody to send up there who you were really. I mean, Jose Trevino is not, not Yogi Berra, not Johnny Bench. So when they sent him up, I thought to myself, wow, that's the best they have off the bench right now, given whatever they've used in the game. I don't know if they blew the game. I thought they blew game one, and not even because of Cortez and that, but they made some defensive gaffes in that game that directly led to runs, and I don't think it gets to the extra inning in game one if it weren't for Juan Soto misplaying a ball that winds up being a triple, or Gleyber Torres misplaying a relay throw that gets away and lets Ohtani get to third and scores the tying run on a sac fly. I thought the Yankees looked a little tight defensively, and that I think was a bigger issue for them than anything else in game one.
Let me go back to the walk, the intentional walk, and just to set the context, less than a week and a half ago, this backfired on Dave Roberts with the Mets, right? So, I mean, I think that's why you're attuned to it, because you've seen it go bad. You saw a home run as a result of that.
Yeah, but if you look at the matchups, and Cortez, if they decide to pitch to Bet, and Bet gets one out,
yeah,
yeah, so we're sitting here going, how did you pitch to Mookie Betts?
That's right.
You wanted the lefty-lefty matchup, so I didn't have a problem with it at the time. I understood the strategy behind it. Freddie Freeman just got up and does what Freddie Freeman can do.
Ohio State kicking off to Penn State to start the game.
Yeah, I mean, I find it very defensible. Because you load the bases, you have force outs everywhere. You have in Freddie Freeman a guy who's can't really run. So it's an easier out, even if somebody boots the ball. So I'm okay with that. I think we have to turn down Aaron Judge. Nothing so far from Aaron Judge. Not much from Ohtani, but nothing from Judge. How much pressure is on him, and what do you expect in Yankee Stadium from him specifically?
There was a lot of pressure on him, obviously. There was a lot of pressure on him after a really bad first round against Kansas City. He came up with a huge home run. I believe it was game 3 against Cleveland. And I think he has the ability with one swing to turn himself around. The question is, will he have that one swing? I think the biggest problem watching Judge in this series, and really in most of this postseason, is after the kind of year he had, he does, I believe, feel a pressure and a great responsibility to this team to be the guy, that he was all year. Pitchers are not giving him the pitches to hit that he saw throughout the season. The difference is that in parts of the season where pitchers were staying away from him, he would just stand there and watch those pitches out of the zone, take the walk, and let Giancarlo Stanton or Austin Wells or Jazz Chisholm or whoever was behind him, do the damage behind him. Here he's getting anxious. He's chasing a lot more than he has been for most of this year, and you're seeing it in the overall numbers in the postseason, and specifically in the World Series, where he's 1 for 9 with 6 strikeouts. So he has to figure out a way where if they're not going to give him a pitch to hit, he's got to have the control to take the walk, get on base, and let somebody behind him try to drive him in.
So I wrote a little note to my son during, I think it was game 2. I think it was game 2 that I said that I was checking out now. Maybe it was game 1, I don't know what it was, but I said I'm checking out now because I've just seen Ohtani and Judge strike out on low balls out of the zone and look silly doing it, and I'm done on this particular game. Both those guys have chased, and they don't usually do that, right?
No, not at all. And I think that it's natural in a situation like this. I think you're talking about game 1. I think the two of them
game 1
were the first 5 at bats.
Yeah.
And I think it's natural when you are these kinds of players, especially playing in your first World Series. I mean, we've seen so many great players their first time in the postseason or their first time in the series really struggle with this kind of thing because they want to go up there and be the man. They've been waiting for this moment their whole life as a baseball player, and it's here, and sometimes it gets big, and sometimes it takes 1 or 2 of these to settle in. Not everybody is Derek Jeter getting up there and doing what, with the first in 1996 as a rookie, doing what Jeter did as a rookie. That doesn't happen to everybody. But, like I said, with Judge, with Ohtani obviously not really worried about it because the team's up 2-0.
Yeah.
But with Judge, it takes one big hit, and you get one big hit at Yankee Stadium tonight or tomorrow to help the Yankees get back in this series. The no one's going to care about the 1 for 9. They're going to worry about what happens from that point going forward.
3 of the 4 starters who went out there did well. It sort of reminded me of what baseball was in my mind, so that was good. But I would think, maybe you don't think this, I think the Yankees have to win this. They have to win Game 3. I think if they lose Game 3, it's just a question of when they're going to lose the whole thing. And so I would ask you, which team do you think is better? Which team's a better team in your mind?
Well, coming into this series, I thought the Yankees were the more well-rounded team because I thought their pitching was better.
Right.
And I thought having Cole and Rodon was going to be sort of the difference maker, allow them to get a game in LA, come home, win 2 out of 3, and go back to LA and wrap it up at 6. Now, obviously, that's going to be a little more difficult. They're going to have to win 3 at home to be able to go back to LA to wrap it up at 6. But at least win 2 at home to get it back to LA. It's, the pitching right now, Clark Schmidt, I have no idea. He's been good, not great in his couple of postseason starts. Walker Buehler was not good in his first start. He was very good in his second start, but not the way that you and I were used to watching baseball for most of our lives. His excellent start against the Mets was 4 shutout innings. Yeah. And the bullpen had to throw the majority of the game. I think the Dodgers would be very happy with 4 shutout innings from Buehler tonight, except that they're probably going with another bullpen game tomorrow. So then how taxed is the bullpen going to be if they have to cover 5+ innings tonight? I think the Yankees need to win tonight, and I think they need to win tomorrow night, frankly, to try to win this series. They have Cole going in Game 5, but as we saw, no guarantee. I mean, he pitched great, but he failed them, and then they lost the game in extras. So I think, tonight for me for sure. Look, I was there covering this team.
Penn State driving down the field pretty easily. 1st and 10 on Ohio State's side of the field now.
Probably a once-in-a-lifetime situation. So you can't, if they lose tonight, we'll be hearing all about the Red Sox come back and how blah, 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 blah. And we'll see the videos of David Ortiz and Dave Roberts, especially Dave Roberts, obviously. Sure. The other dugout. But if I'm the Yankees, I'd rather not tempt that fate. I'd rather, tonight's a must-win for them.
Do you expect them to win tonight?
I do.
Yeah,
I think the Yankee Stadium crowd will, they haven't had a World Series game since they clinched against the Phillies in 2009. That might have been the loudest I've ever heard that ballpark. I wrote a book about that whole season, and that team was pretty special. I don't know that this team is as special as that team, but they have a chance in the next 3 or 4 days to put themselves there and make themselves that special. And Judge, I don't want to put it all on Judge, but it would certainly help if he could get his bat going.
Thank you, Mark. We'll talk to you as the series goes on. Thanks.
Thanks, Tony. I'll send Jason your best.
Mark Feinstein, boys and girls. We will take a break. We will come back with email and jingle. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
With Uber Reserve, good things come to those who plan ahead.
Your email, faxes, and your notes. Here comes Tony's mailbag. Gonna read some for all of you folks.
Thank you, KJ. You want to do the Bethesda Bagel?
Yes, very good Monday. I got the bagel sandwiches with foil, paper bag intact. Perfect day. Bethesda Bagels, we love them. You will as well. Just go to BethesdaBagels.com. Forwarded location in the DC area nearest you. Then pop one in, my friend, and you will be thrilled.
That's it for us today. Before we get to the mailbag, let me just say, I don't know why I love you like I do. After all these changes that you put me through, you took my money and my cigarettes. I haven't seen the worst of it yet. I want to know, can you tell me, am I in love to stay? Take me to the river. Drop me in the water. Take me to the river. Dip me in the water. Washing me down. Washing me down. That's the guy with the odd suits.
Yes, David Moon,
remake.
Talking Heads.
The remake. That's not the original.
The original is Reverend Al Green, right?
Yes, the Reverend Al Green.
Yeah.
Yes. And both are great.
Very, very
Both
good.
are great. Thanks to our guests today, Michael Wilbon and Mark Feinsand. Thanks as well to today's sponsors. Remember, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Odyssey. If you get the show through Apple, please leave us a review from Bo in Charlotte, North Carolina, referring to this play that took place yesterday at 7 o'clock. Wilbon is not surprised. From Cher, raising Hail Mary, check the engine and the tires on the bandwagon. From Jeff Barger, is there a number high enough to cover the amount of people that Wilbon will want to fire? I will hang up and listen. From John Goldblum, who is the doctor, who is the uncle, right?
Morgan Pressel, right?
Morgan Pressel, Cleveland Clinic. Tony and gang, just to put a last nail in the coffin of colonoscopy. As you've stated on multiple occasions, I am in fact chairman of pathology at the Cleveland Clinic. What you don't know is exactly why I do. I am a GI is gastrointestinal, right?
Yes.
Pathologist, which means I'm the guy who looks at all these polyps removed at a colonoscopy under the microscope to make a diagnosis. Please tell your viewers that the entire treatment plan is based upon behind-the-scenes pathologists who actually make the diagnosis. The GI doc who does the scope doesn't hold the polyp up to their foreheads like Karnak and know what it is. My advice, look at all of your pathology reports, see who the pathologist is, who read your biopsy or resection, and find out if they're good or not. Like all professions, not all pathologists are created equal. Asking for a second opinion on everything is always worth the time and money, even if that second person agrees. Okay, lecture over. I'm going to hop off and go see Bruce again. From Nick Milky in Montgomery, Alabama. I've been meaning to send this email ever since your experience with going to get blood drawn. I keep forgetting. Today I was pushed over the edge as I was listening to the Friday, October 25th show while cleaning my office at work. Early in the show, you read the email about blood donations and mentioned the Big Ten blood drive. I thought to myself, hey, I know that promotion. I'm literally holding a cardboard tube full of posters for it right now. How is it possible, you might ask? Well, when I'm not being a dedicated little in the official Star Wars podcaster of the Tony Kornheiser Show, yes, I still laugh when I sent you that email and you explained, Nick, what do you mean? My real job is Regional Director of Live South Community Blood Centers. We have locations in Florida, Georgia, and my home state of Alabama. We're 363 days a year to provide blood products for hospitals and patients in those areas. Recently, I was sent those Big Ten posters to possibly use it in advertising that promotion. I will say they haven't really taken hold because, as you can imagine, Montgomery, Alabama is more of an SEC kind of town. Regardless, it's another demonstration of the connective tissue of the show. If you ever need more questions answered regarding phlebotomy, blood storage times, or how one single blood donation can potentially save 3 separate lives.
Penn State's going to have to settle for a field goal attempt on their first drive. They got down to about the 20, but stalled out.
Into one another. Speaking of plugs, my office only has 8, and it's never enough. Blood donations, again, this is from Sue Heidel. Chuck and Roxy, number 189 in Cincinnati. John Cobo wrote in and educated us that human blood has a shelf life of 42 days. While I don't know the exact expiration date for blood, I knew it must go bad after a certain period of time because my father had one of the rarest blood types of all, AB negative. Less than 1% of the population has this. It was so rare, in fact, that my father was encouraged not to donate his blood on a regular basis, but rather be on call for local hospitals and blood banks to reach out to him to donate.
Actually, they got down to about the 11, but had to settle for a field goal. 3-0 Penn State. Number 3 Penn State over number 4 Ohio State about halfway through the first quarter.
I'm sure the process for reaching donors is digitized now, but whenever the phone on the wall rang late at night, we all held our breath thinking it might be a call for our dad to help a fellow citizen in need, and he was happy and proud to do so. That's incredible. That's inspiring. It really is. And if we are still sharing colonoscopy stories, I'd like to add mine to the list. It was my first colonoscopy, so you're a little nervous about the whole thing. Sure, I had the same night before unpleasantries that everyone else experiences, but now I'm at the hospital, gown on, getting wheeled into the exam room. I'm lying on my side. I've just been injected with the sleepy time drug and we're ready to go, but no one told me it was student intern day at the hospital, and 8 strangers walked into the room, lined up behind me in my open gown, and we're off to the races. I hope they enjoyed the show. From Lauren Flynn in Missoula, Montana. This spring, as I had for many years, I was employed by a state agency. I had been contemplating retirement sometime this fall or the spring of 2025. My job required I attend a quarterly meeting that took place in the evening for about 4 hours. I'll spare the details and alleged purposes of these meetings. However, they were as pleasant as being in a line of fire when Reginald throws his poo-poo-poo, and made as much sense as listening to the complete works of Chaucer as read by James Carver. I had scheduled my colonoscopy months ahead, and when the aforementioned meeting was scheduled in late February, it coincided with a dreaded prep night for the procedure. Alas, I was unable to attend the meeting halfway through my consumption of this despicable liquid, yes cold and yes flavored. I mentioned to the woman to whom I'm related by marriage that this was preferable to attending the meeting, and wondered out aloud if this was a sign. It was a Tuesday night. By Friday, I had made the decision, and by the following Monday, I had announced my retirement. Word to the wise kids, if sitting on the toilet for hours on end is better than going to work, it's time to get out. I haven't looked back. As someone who has colon cancer in their immediate family, thanks for speaking out about the importance of this procedure. And I'm so grateful that you didn't have a similar epiphany during your prep and decide to give up blathering on about everything and nothing. Thanks for the laughs, the warmth, and here's to many more years of listening. Brett Hobbs in Linton, Indiana. My grandson listened to your Friday podcast with me and want to let you know that Thomas Edison did quite a few things but never invented the telephone. Who invented the telephone? Alexander Graham Bell.
Alexander Graham Bell. Yeah,
It just came to me, Alexander Graham Bell.
we got a few emails on that.
Yeah.
So.
How many times have I told you I'm an idiot? I told him he has to excuse you for the faux pas because as what was said about John Belushi in his speech on the Germans bombing Pearl Harbor, Dr. Tony was on the road. I said Edison.
Yeah. What are you talking about, Edison? Yeah.
Edison is electricity.
Yeah, Edison, the light bulb.
The light bulb.
And
Yeah. Linda, Cape Coral, Florida. Just remember, Colonel Harlan Sanders was 62 years old when he came up with KFC. Not bad for an old man, right? So that was about genius showing itself, I guess. Mark Schaefer. I know that this podcast is, as Andy Poley said, about Tony's dog, but every once in a while it offers real insight. This past summer I was privileged to get my first science fiction novel, Delivering the Commonwealth, published. Special thanks to the incomparable Robert Berg for the beta read. Chuck and Roxy get back to me about the 5 mediocre minutes. As I consider the possibilities for a sequel, one of the issues to solve is the problem of faster-than-light travel. I already have something called the Sheridan Drive that allows for this, but if the scope of the next novel is grander, then I'll need something even faster. Thanks to your podcast, the solution has now become obvious, the Wilbon Drive. A special technology that cuts any journey in half by just insisting that it shouldn't take as long as it actually does. I have a few wrinkles to iron out, but I really think I'm onto something here. Carl Letterman, enjoyed your discussion about the Shangri-Las today. I was a couple of years ahead of them at Andrew Jackson High School in Cambria Heights, Queens.
How about that?
They consisted of the Weiss sisters and the Ganser identical twins. I graduated in 1964 and they dropped out to be rock stars. They started singing together in 1963 and we were once in a school talent show in 63 or 64. I sang 2 Bob Dylan songs very badly. They did not win the talent show despite playing with the Beatles and Stones and having a #1 hit by the end of 64. Mary Weiss was the most talented of the 4. She was the hot blonde lead singer and released an excellent solo album in 2007 after literally not singing a note for over 20 years, not even in the shower. Mary passed away in January of this year, leaving Betty Weiss as the sole survivor of the greatest non-Phil Spector girl group, Carl Letterman.
Isn't that great?
That's great. We're going to have to end on that. That's just brilliant. If you're out on your bike tonight, everyone, as always, do wear white. Right field. She is gone!
I don't believe what I just saw.
Eerie, isn't it?
I think we can agree that a dollar bill is worth more.
Hey, it's Tony on today's show.
All right, we're now on to the Wednesday, October 30th, 2024 episode of the Tony Kornheiser Show. Ohio State about to take their first possession in the Ohio State-Penn State game. And we are still flying south in France towards the Pyrenees, and then we'll go over Pamplona, Spain, on our way to Bilbao, Spain. However you pronounce that.
We'll get football picks from Chuck Todd and Reginald the Monkey. And we'll talk to Buster Olney about the World Series and the Yankees staving off elimination with a big win in Game 4. But first, let's keep the sales weasels happy.
Worried about letting to get free to
Progressive.com.
I came fairly close to going to the airport. You know?
This is General George Washington, and you're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show. So he hates what happened to the Bears, and I understand that. Sure. He hates it. But yesterday on the show, he said he hated the World Series. He said it just wasn't any good. First game was exciting. Nothing else was exciting. He anticipated, as many people did, that there would be a sweep. And he was down on the World Series, and I had said, I thought the playoffs so far have been great.
Yeah.
The World Series wasn't as
You
great.
have to separate playoffs from the actual series.
Yeah, but I also thought that what Freddie Freeman was doing, this was before he did it again last night. See,
I just texted you, not possible.
I just thought, wow, this is the guy's having a great... Anyway, so we'll move on to that. So I was in the office.
I love that you guys made him watch that video again.
Yeah, well, I said that. Could you just play it a few more times? Because I haven't seen it all that much. As long as I'm in there, I can actually say that.
Take the crowd.
Because I see what's going on during the show most of the time. I don't. So I go to the office and I pick up a couple of... the people mail things to the office. They mail books, they mail invites. So we got some invites here to talk about. We got one, Mr. and Mrs. Anthony Andrews invite you to celebrate the wedding of their daughter. It's IVA Lucille. It's either Eva or Iva Lucille maybe, to Jonathan Lanza Weinstein on Saturday, October 26th. So this happened already. This was in Powell, Ohio.
A beautiful weekend.
Yeah, so good for them. And we got another one that's going to happen on December 21st in Cape May. New Jersey, so I could take the ferry. I could go over there,
Right.
from Rehoboth,
Yeah, right there.
and take the ferry. That is the wedding of Gidget Capper and Matt Rousset, R-U-S-A-Y. So congratulations to both.
I found
Yes.
the wedding website.
Oh, they've got one.
Yeah,
Okay.
beautiful engagement photo.
Yeah,
Lovely.
so
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
And just you brought up Rehoboth and Cape May. How do you pronounce? Is it Lowe's Island? Lois? L-O-E? You know.
Lowe's.
It's called. It's pronounced Lowe's.
L-O-E-W-S?
Yeah, it's Lowe's. Okay, I've never known
Where
how.
is that?
It's right near Cape. The ferry is right there. Lewis, Delaware.
Lewis, Delaware.
Lewis. Is that how you pronounce it? Lewis.
Lewis.
Okay.
But the natives, when they want to make fun of
Oh,
it, say
pick six just happened. Penn State up 10-0.
That would have been Lewis, Delaware. No, it's Lewis.
Okay. Thank you. I've never. That's a very. I know.
At the MLI tournament at Rehoboth is the Metro Lewis Invitational.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a small little town. So I went to the office yesterday. I'll probably go back again this week at once or something like that. And I get all of these things. And one of the things that I do, of course, is I take a car down. I don't take my own car because I'm too old to drive at night. And you know what? That's what I say. I just don't want to. The truth is I don't want to. I don't want to drive. I'd rather get a car service.
How's the traffic?
Going in at 3:30 is nothing. Coming back at 5:30 is significantly worse.
Well, a lot of the work down by the embassies has finished in the last couple of years, so it's a little easier getting down. And it was a big speech yesterday. I don't know when that.
Kamala Harris
Yeah.
made a speech on the ellipse.
Yeah.
And I was told, oh, you'll never get out of town. That's not true. We were going the other way.
Yeah, you're
we were going
lots
north
of
and not south, so that wasn't a problem. You want to know what the problem was? The problem was the car service didn't show up.
Well, that could be an issue.
See, that's a problem for me.
Yeah.
I'm standing outside. I'm standing on a corner in Winslow. I'm standing outside at 5:30 after we taped the show. I'm ready to go. The car is supposed to be there. It's not there. Now, what you always get with a car service is a series of texts. We're on our way. Here's the driver's name. Here's when he's going to be there. And then he's going to call when he gets. We wasn't there.
The driver's always at least 20 minutes early in our experience.
Yes.
Always.
Yes. He wasn't there. So I called Tina because,
Sure, she could do a lot from Connecticut.
Nothing. Well, she tried because Tina's great. But ultimately what happened, he never showed up. The driver never showed up. BLS limousines. Really? That's the last time. That's the last time for me and them. Because in the last month, I got in an accident.
Right.
One of them.
Was this
rear-ended.
better or worse than the accident?
Then we got rear-ended on Massachusetts Avenue in one of their cars. And that, is that a freak thing to happen? Sure, but it happened to me.
Yeah.
It happened to me. Like Carol the other day, her windshield was broken. Nobody understands how it was broken. I talked to a salesman, talked to repair guys. They go, I don't know how this happened. The housing on the rearview mirror in front fell down, and the windshield was broken. We had to have everything repaired. Okay, and the guy said to me, I don't know. This is really odd. Now I will give Oarsman Jeep all the credit in the world. They first told us it might take 10 to 12 days, and it got done in 3. So God bless them. Okay, I'm really happy with that. But I go, how did this happen? It's not like she got in an accident. The guy says, I've got no idea. Something must have fallen on the windshield. Well, what? A giant turkey? Like an 800-pound turkey to crack a windshield?
It happens.
Anyway, so let me get back
A lot
to
of
this
action
other
at
thing.
Safeway parking lot.
Yeah, wow. So let me, it's the Starbucks parking lot, believe me. So let me get back to yesterday. So that it doesn't show up. Car doesn't show up. What are you supposed to do at that point? I was really lucky. Matt Kelleher was still there, and I know he lives relatively near me, and I begged him for a ride home, and he very graciously gave me a ride home.
You were lucky it was not a metro day for him.
That's right, that he had his own car. We had to walk about 3 blocks to his garage. So why is your garage so far away? There's a garage right next
Get
to
him
the
the good
studio.
lot.
So I just that seemed
When he's there a couple more years, maybe he gets the real love.
He's been there 23 years. But he
Feel
took me
good about the show's future.
He took me home and made better time than the BLS guy most of the time. And so I was really happy. But I'm done with them. I'm done with them. We're not going to have that. What do you mean you don't show up? And you not only don't show up, you don't text.
Yeah.
They text you constantly. You get texts in the middle of the night for a service 3 days later.
If someone recognized you while you're standing outside the studio, would you have considered the ride?
No. Could have been a maniac. No, I thought that I would, like Keller said, well, take the metro and then a bus. I go, I'm not playing that game. I would have gone across the street to the Mayflower and hoped there was a cab, but I don't know that there are cabs in America anymore. Everything seems to be a specified service, like Uber.
There's a few. I've caught cabs out of the Mayflower.
So that's what I would think. I mean, the Mayflower is my best chance.
Yeah, but you can also see them waiting on to sales. So if you're not seeing them there, there's few and far.
Yeah.
And worst case scenario, just get a room at the Mayflower.
Yeah.
You know,
charge it to them. Yeah. No, I'm very lucky though. Very lucky because Keller. I mean, it's very nice of him. So what's in the news? Well, we're going to talk with Buster Olney about the World Series. There was an interesting story yesterday, and we anticipated the story. And then the story actually happened, so we were able to use past tense instead of something speculative. It's about the benching of Anthony Richardson and the Indianapolis quarterback.
Getting towards the Pyrenees here.
This year. They picked him last year with the number 4 overall draft pick. He was a quarterback out of the University of Florida. He had played in 13 games, that's all. 13 games for the University of Florida. That's not a lot. Jaden Daniels played in about 50. Bo Nix played in about 60. Okay? Caleb Williams played about 50. So that's what you want. But Anthony Richardson was one of these guys who showed up at the combine and just jumped up the charts and wowed everybody. You know, like, wow, look at this guy's athletic ability. And the Indianapolis Colts, who tried with Matt Ryan and tried with Phillip Rivers and have gotten a lot of old quarterbacks since Peyton Manning left. Indianapolis Colts took this young quarterback at 4. He was hurt for most of last year. He started this year, got hurt again a little bit. The guy who replaced him when he was hurt is Joe Flacco, and the reason Joe Flacco was around, Joe Flacco now 90 years old, the same age as Frankie Valli. The reason Joe Flacco is around is because the Cleveland Browns were too stupid to bring him back after he took them to the playoffs last year. Because they were invested in Deshaun Watson. How's that working out? So Flacco signs on with the Colts. Flacco plays in 2 full games this year and part of a third. The game that Richardson got hurt and Flacco had to come in. Flacco has 7 touchdown passes and 1 interception and is completing passes at a percentage of 66%. Now, how does that compare with Anthony Richardson? Well, it compares favorably. Anthony Richardson has 4 touchdown passes, 7 interceptions, and is completing passes at a rate of 44%, which is by far the worst percentage in the NFL among starters. By far. The other day, I think it was 10 for 32. Something terrible. He was something terrible on Sunday. And so he's gotten benched. We didn't have it done until about 4 o'clock. At 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, the story was that the coach there, Steichen, who was an offensive coach and coordinator in the league for 10 years before he got the head coaching job at Indianapolis, that Steichen had said, when he asked, is he your quarterback? And he said, right now, today he is. And there was a follow-up question, well, what about Sunday? And he goes, we're evaluating. So we were going to go with that. Yeah. Because that's enough. That's enough. Because he's putting Richardson's feet to the fire. That's enough. But then it was reported by Schefter and Jeremy Fowler at about 3 o'clock that indeed they were changing quarterbacks. So that gave us a better story because it was done at that point. And the question was, you know, how would you feel? You know, what do you feel of this change? Do you agree with it? Do you think it's going to work? And my position was, this coach is an offensive guy. Been in the league a long time. This is his first head coaching job, but he's been in the league. He thinks Joe Flacco gives him a better chance to win. Now, it's not going to last forever because, again, Flacco's very old. And these are fluid situations when you replace quarterbacks. You saw it with the Jets for the last 3 years. It's always sort of fluid. Bryce Young is already back for Carolina. Okay, you know, Andy Dalton got in a car accident, but he's back. Yeah. And then it doesn't
Ohio State driving a little bit now onto Penn State side of the field.
Number 4 pick. You know, he jumped up the ladder on everybody at the combine. You would invested a lot of psychic energy in this guy. Not that much money yet because it's a rookie contract. But what if he's no good? Okay, you got to dump him now, and now your alternative is a 40-year-old quarterback. You can't go with that forever. So you're gonna have to go back in the draft. You're gonna have to go back and get a quarterback. You know, it becomes an interesting story.
Don't you feel? I mean, I know you said Manning. They had Andrew Luck right after that, and I felt like they quit. They feel like he probably should still be there.
Yeah,
and
it would have been a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah,
Luck.
and when he
got
left,
beaten up.
Yeah, got beaten up, couldn't physically play, and that was when they sort of had to scramble it, and they've been scrambling ever since.
Yeah, it hasn't worked out.
No, it hasn't.
It just has not worked out at all.
Because of Flacco's age, it's so great to look at the releases for the incentives that are on the table for him. So it's like playing 40% of the snaps, an extra $250,000, 50. You're like, how about 100% of the snaps?
He's going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, he should.
And by the way, he's at the moment. Who knows what's going to happen this game?
These next 2 weeks are kind of tough.
Yeah, but he was really good at Cleveland last year. He got them into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And Cleveland said, no, we don't. Thanks, but no thanks, really.
Touchdown, Ohio State.
There is a lovely story in the Washington Post today by Chuck Culpepper. It is just lovely. It is about the fact that Mike Gundy, the football coach at Oklahoma State, does a radio show, a weekly radio show, which he physically does at a retirement home. And he talks to all the people at the retirement home. They talk about football, they talk about life. And it's just a charming, warm, wonderful story by Chuck Culpepper, who knows how to write that kind of stuff. Chuck Todd?
That's right.
Chuck Todd, when we return, I'm Tony Kornheiser.
With Uber Reserve, good things come to those who plan ahead. Family vacay? Reserve your ride as soon as you book your flights. To all the planners, now you can reserve your Uber ride up to 90 days in advance. See Uber app for details.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is the Indochino read. With weddings to galas, fall brings more opportunity to dress up. Indochino makes it easy to get custom men's and women's wear that will turn heads, made-to-measure suits, dress shirts, blazers, and more. And Indochino's latest fall-winter collection combines classic tailoring with contemporary aesthetics, inspired by Europe's most iconic designers. Just visit Indochino.com to browse the collection, and then use the code TONYK for 10% off orders of $399 or more. You have all their suits.
I do, as does Michael has at least one, right? Yeah. Oh, hold on. Let me unmute your microphone. And I'm in the middle of the second wedding season, the fall edition of wedding season. Yes. Imagine my surprise when I look at a blazer just lightly draped over the back of a chair this past weekend, Chance, and I see the label Indochino.
Fantastic.
Chance on board. That's Chance on board.
Fantastic.
Well, knows you can design it any way you like. It's a great price.
All about that lining.
Yes, all about the lining. And the pocket, the pen pocket.
Yes. The fall-winter collection skillfully infuses traditional tailoring with modern sharp lines for the perfect finishing touch. Plus, you can design the suit of your dreams and fine-tune every detail, including lapels, linings, monograms, pocket flaps, pen holders, as Michael said.
There you go.
And you can get a tailored fit from home. All you have to do is set up your measurement profile on Indochino's website and
measure twice.
Choose your customizations without even leaving the house. Or you can have premium in-person experience.
How about the yak?
Book an appointment at a showroom near you and let an Indochino style guide walk you through every step. This fall, update your wardrobe to quintessential suiting elements with contemporary flair from Indochino. Visit Indochino.com and use the code TONYK to get 10% off any purchase of $399 or more. That's 10% off at INDOCHINO.com. The promo code is TONYK. Use the code, people.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is Rob Gould. Rob Gould. This is called Gambling Girl. We get this letter from Stephen Deschler, which is a great letter. Yes, Tony, I came home from high school and there was Rob Gould playing Desperado on my parents' upright piano. Kind of hard not to like a guy like that, even if he's going to be your brother-in-law. He's of your ilk. He was born and raised in Rockville Center, Long Island. Next stop on the Babylon line from Lynbrook. Indeed, he was a South Side cyclone. So it's possible he danced with your dates. It's possible he danced with some Hewlett Bulldog dates. And we were the Hewlett Blue Jackets then, not the Bulldogs. The record's not clear on this. He's been in the D.C. area since the mid-'70s. My sister confirms that he basically plays golf, writes, and performs songs. That's the list. He began writing about 15 years ago and started winning songwriting awards. His latest hit, Army of Devils, is under consideration for a Grammy for Best American Roots Song. The song Gambling Girl is new and will be released in November. That's very impressive. And this is Rob Gould, and he's playing in Chuck Todd, and I should read this first. This week's picks with Chuck Todd and Reginald the Monkey are brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Chuck won again last week. Didn't have his greatest week. He was 4-3, but he's 32-22, so he's plus 10. So that's above everybody else, whether human or simian. That's above everybody else. He is leading the field. And I'll get to the picks in a second, but I've got to draw on your political background. The next time you're on, we will have a new president-elect.
That's optimistic.
Yeah, well, might not. Maybe it'll be like 2000, right? Maybe it'll go to Jads and stuff like that. I don't know. But depending on how it breaks, what do you think we're going to look back and say?
Well, I think we're still not sure if this is a referendum on Joe Biden or a referendum on Donald Trump, right? And I think that in the simplest way to look at this, that will be the sort of the backward-looking conclusion, depending on who wins, right? If Harris wins, it'll be seen as the country decided no Trump. That it's less, and I continue to believe this, that this is our third straight election where ultimately the final voters are trying to decide who not to vote for. Who don't they want, not who they want. Which also means that whoever wins is already swimming uphill.
Yeah.
Because no matter what, we're probably going to have a divided Congress. Meaning it's, Republicans favor to take the Senate, Democrats slightly favor to take the House. So it's hard to imagine either one of them is going to have much running room. The honeymoon is not something I count on. But as far as just sort of tactically, I'll just say this: there's a chance we'll know who's president by sunrise Wednesday morning, 1 week from today. And in this respect, if the same candidate wins North Carolina and Pennsylvania, no matter what we're waiting on in any other two states, if the same candidate wins those two states, ballgame.
Okay. So
with one way to wait. If you want to pull the all-nighter,
no.
I do think, and I know you don't, but if you want to pull the all-nighter, I do think by Wednesday morning we'll at least know who won those two states.
Well, I'll be up Wednesday morning, so I can get up at 4, so I'll figure it out at that point. All right, good. Let's go to the betting, because that's more fun. It's more fun for all of us. It's more fun. The first game is a spread that is incomprehensible to me. Houston, pretty good team, is at the Jets. Not a good team. It's the Thursday night game, and I understand you're traveling and this, that, and the other thing.
And the Jets win this game.
Houston is getting 2 points to go play at the Jets. The Jets have done nothing but lose lately. Devontae Adams has not come in and been a savior, although he has criticized the culture of the team. And Aaron Rodgers just sort of stands there time after time after time and says, we've been really close to winning. We could be 6-2, so we can turn this around. But you're 2-6. And Houston's getting 2. What are you going to do?
Well, this is one of those where when you see this clearly, like there's this, you're like, wow, okay, so everybody's on the Jets. Vegas is on the Jets. What do they know? This is one of those you look at, they know something. I'm afraid of going against them. So I'll go with the Jets. I understand the logic. They have to win. Right? There is this, they must do it. Houston hasn't looked great.
Has not.
Right?
And they just lost Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, and that's the other thing.
Yep.
No Nico Collins, no Diggs, and suddenly they're sort of kind of almost one-dimensional, right? And so Jets have a good defense. They can sort of slow mix it down. So I understand the logic, and I sort of don't want to get in the way when there's this, when you have a line like this, you're like,
Okay.
all right, forget it. I'm not fighting that one. So I'll go with the Jets.
Okay, the Dallas Cowboys, another stinking team, is at Atlanta. Cowboys are getting 3 at Atlanta. Atlanta had a pretty good win last week, had a division win on the road. Cowboys, of course, lost because the Cowboys lose. There's so much storm and drama about the Cowboys, and they're not really very good. They probably have to win as well, and they're getting 3.
Would you like to just, would you like the following? Would you like to just see a Manning cast, but instead with Jerry Jones and Arthur Blank? In this game. Well, I don't
trust either team. And 3.5. It's a lot of points.
I think it was 3. Is it 3.5?
I'm going to 3.
I think it went down to 3.
Yeah,
It went down to
okay,
3. That's why it's confusing.
Yeah. Give me Atlanta. Dallas they just don't have a running game.
No.
And they only seem to move the ball when it's the end and they're sort of running a 2-minute offense. They're just not in Atlanta. I mean, you look up there, it looks like they're finally using all the pieces of their offense, right?
Bijan Robinson is very good. He's very good. So, okay, you take Atlanta.
Yeah. Take Atlanta.
And we have the Washington game. Washington, it's the most fantastic lucky win of all time last week, made possible by really mistakes all over the place by the Chicago Bears, who should have won the game. Washington is going to the New York Giants. The Giants aren't good. They have no offense. I think it's 31st in the league. They're not a good team at all. We know Washington's improved. We don't know quite if they're good, but they look like they're good. This is the 3.5 line. In a division game, this is the 3.5 line. So if it's a field goal game, and you take Washington, you lose.
Yeah.
Right?
I think we just crossed over into Spain.
We got
I just can't imagine this is a close game. I know it's a division game. There's a small part of me that's nervous that sort of, you're like, you get nervous that, Washington, they win a game like that, they're gonna think they're invincible, and this is just the time that they might trip. But I don't know. I watched a little bit of that Giants-Steelers game. I don't know how they score enough points.
No, they don't.
How will they keep up with the Commanders? So, Washington, they're going to roll.
Okay. Baltimore is hosting Denver. Denver is not a good team, though. Sean Payton has improved them by leaps and bounds. They're getting 9.5 at Baltimore. That's a lot of points. But Baltimore is a significantly better team, coming off an embarrassing loss to Cleveland. That's an embarrassing loss where once again in the fourth quarter they got beat. They've given up more points in the fourth quarter than any team in the NFL by a lot. Will you take the 9.5? It's a lot of points.
It's a lot of points, and Baltimore's ability to always leave the back door open.
Yes.
In the fourth quarter. So I can't lay that many points with Baltimore after that stinker last week. I mean, what they did against Cleveland. So yeah, give me Denver the 9.5.
Risky. It's a risky one.
I know. Yeah, look, if you told me this game's 31-10,
you believe it.
I believe it, but yeah, I just feel like too many points.
Okay. Detroit is giving 3.5 at Green Bay. This is a division game. Green Bay's a good team. I understand they've won the last 2 games by last-second field goals, and you can't make a living out of doing that. And I understand that Detroit scored 52 last week. They scored 52 on the Tennessee Titans. Green Bay is not the Tennessee Titans. 3.5 is the tricky number. Will you lay 3.5 with Detroit or take Green Bay?
Remember, Detroit's playing outside. They're a different team than they have to play outside. They're, and this is an outside game. Granted, it's not cold yet, but still. I'm a little nervous that Love's just sort of beaten up. Knee. We're only in week 9, 10, or whatever it is. You're like, what's he going to look like by the end of the season? But I'm going to hide behind that hook. And the 3.5.
You'll take Green Bay.
I will.
Okay. Indianapolis with a quarterback change, going to Joe Flacco instead of Anthony Richardson is at Minnesota. This is a Sunday night game. This is a game that, and Minnesota's coming out of a loss. I would load up on Minnesota, me personally.
2 losses. Everyone's 2 in a row? I think so.
They hit the bump in the road, Minnesota. They hit the bump in the road. Sunday night game, 2 indoor teams. Minnesota's still indoors, right? 2 indoor teams. Or are they outdoors now, Minnesota? You get 5 if you want Indianapolis. I would run the other way, me personally, but we'll see. What do you want to do?
Well, one reason why I would get a little nervous about Minnesota, but I think I'm going to stick with Minnesota. But Flacco, that Minnesota defense, Flores loves the blitz, and Flacco's the guy that can really punish.
He can.
He can punish you on the blitz. But that implies you have enough people to pass to. I'd rather be with Minnesota. I just don't trust the Colts. I don't think they're a very good defense. So I can imagine Minnesota scoring, just pulling into a big lead, and then Flacco desperately trying to come back. But give me Minnesota. I'll leave 5.
There are a million games here that I wouldn't bet this week.
Here's this week and last week
I wouldn't bet
have been really difficult lines. It was almost like a switch flipped, and if you notice, they're all big lines now. Yeah, from like constant 2 to 3s, all of a sudden there's a lot more 8s and 9s, few 5s and 6s. Excuse me, it's just a little more difficult.
Here's a 9. Tampa Bay, which has lost 2 games in a row, is at Kansas City. Kansas City is undefeated, but as we know about Kansas City, they're not interested in the spread. They win the games and they go home, and they're happy to win by 3, by 5, by 7. 9's a lot, but Tampa Bay has no receivers. Evans and Godwin are out, and as good as Baker Mayfield may be this year, he has nobody to throw to. Will you lay 9's gotta make you nervous? Will you lay 9?
So for the same reason we just discussed before, and the other thing, it's a cross-conference game, so I don't think there's the same urgency, if you will,
right?
That there might be if you're playing even in conference, let alone division. Yeah, I'm going to stick with the same logic I did with the Ravens, which is, we've watched this too often, where Kansas City doesn't care if they cover the spread. So give me Tampa Bay. It's 9 points. That's the only reason I'm just trying to tell myself, well, you're not betting against Mahomes. You're just betting that Mahomes isn't going to, exert himself too much.
Everybody always, and you have to, if Mahomes is getting points, you have to take Mahomes. In terms of just win-loss, you take Kansas City, but 9's a lot. It's a lot. I wish the other team had a receiver you could trust, but they don't. I don't know. All right,
they do still move the ball. They do still move.
Yeah, they did well when they lost. They were scoring points. Thank you, Chuck. We'll talk to you next week.
You got it. Hope we have a president by then. Maybe.
We'll see. Chuck Todd, boys and girls. If we gave you just Chuck Todd, it would be more than enough. But we do better than that. We give you a monkey.
See the monkey, he's scratching, watching his iPad, smoking and laughing, hanging with Bud Brand, tap,
Everybody trying to sing along. This is the original.
Nigel's going to the zoo. Reginald's got the vice too. Sometimes he throws a boo. And he's had too much Johnny Walker Blue.
Reginald had a winning week. He was 2-1.
All right, before we get Reginald's pick, I've got to do some modifying for the college football games I'm playing on the PlayStation while I'm doing this and watching Penn State, Ohio State. Oh, Ohio State going deep, might have a touchdown. Ooh, is he out of bounds? No, incomplete, out of bounds. Wow. Still 10-7, Penn State's up. I'm going to do a little work here on my phone. Don't mind me. Hopefully we don't miss Pamplona. We're close to Pamplona. Let's see here. We want Big 12 and SEC. Just talking to myself. Big 12. Alright, Central Florida. And Florida is the game I just simulated. Again, don't mind me. I'll be talking to myself for just a bit and hopefully not missing Pamplona. Let me know. While I'm recording a video, it's kind of hard for you to let me know as you're watching this later. But figure out a way. Where the hell is Central Florida? I do not see them. Must have missed them. Oh, that's going to work. Ohio State, good gain. 1st and 10 at about the 22 or so. I gotta hurry up here. Central Florida. Aggravates me when I can't find them in my little playlist listing here. So I know I'm going over them. Central Michigan. Where in the hell are they? I must have missed them twice now. It's really frustrating. What the hell? Look at that big lake down there. I don't understand how I'm missing them 100 times here. It's taking way longer than it should. It's Central Michigan again. Oh, you have them as UCF, that's why. Okay. Alright, let's take a quick look around at this giant lake as we drop some frames. Looks like a nice little area of Spain. I think we are fast approaching Pamplona, where the running of the bulls occurs. Alright. Now I gotta look up Indiana and Northwestern. So Ohio State has taken the lead. 14-10. Go Ohio State. Kind of hope they blow out Penn State to make it appear as though Nebraska playing them close. Should give Husker fans hope. But if we lose to UCLA today, that will dissipate very quickly, that hope. Alright, so it looks like, looking at the uniforms, Indiana and Northwestern wore. Making sure I get that right. Again, just talking to myself. So Indiana looks good. Alright, we'll go with that. Oh god, we got a Trump commercial on. Puke. Election is on Tuesday, and I'm terrified, as is probably most of the country. It's incredible to me that so many people think Trump is a worthy person to hold President of the United States. A little pathetic, but that's just my opinion. You're free to think differently. Alright, I'm going to continue the Tony Kornheiser show now as we get near Pamplona, Spain.
Not bad for a monkey.
Not bad for a monkey. Yeah, over 500. Always happy about
What
that.
happened this week?
So I went down last night to the National Zoo, and as it often is, a very chaotic scene down there. Of course, this was the Halloween party. With Halloween coming up this week, the Halloween costume party, cavalcade of stars there. Some of the people I saw, Ronaldo Nehemiah, Grace Slick, they were dressed as Antony and Cleopatra. I guess they're very old friends. Very nice. And I ran into George Clooney, who was dressed as the Limu Emu cop.
Oh, really?
And when he saw me, he beckoned me over, and he said he wanted to pass a message along to you. He said, please tell Tony the answer is absolutely yes. Just tell me the date, and I'll be there.
It's great to know.
So, yeah.
Great to know.
It's not Augusta, is it?
Not Augusta.
Okay.
It's Augusta, Maine. It's not Augusta.
So we took a break from the festivities. Went through these matches. The first one we gave was the Thursday night game with Houston getting to at the Jets. And Reginald showed me a very old photograph, faded but still clear, of him taking batting practice at the Houston Astrodome, hanging out with the likes of J.R. Richard, Enos Cabell. I'm not sure Warren Moon was at the Astrodome, but that tells me he's got ties to Houston, and he'll take them with the 2 points. The next match we gave him was the Washington football team giving 3.5 at the Giants. And this is a lovely photo of him. This was actually in the Washington Post of him. You know, remember the Potomac party boat, the Dandy?
Yes, I do remember that.
He was aboard that with the likes of Mark Mosley, Calvin Muhammad, and Jay Schrader. Everyone just having a lovely, lovely time.
So he'll take the road team 2 in a row.
Yes, he will. And it looks like he's going to make it 3 in a row. Because the next thing we talked about was the Lions giving 3.5 to the Packers. And he showed me a photograph of him in studio at Motown Records, recording with Marvin Gaye, Smokey Robinson, and Martha Reeves. No Vandellas, but those 3 were there.
He's going to take all 3 road teams.
3 road teams.
He's a brave monkey. Brave monkey. It's good to know. This week's picks with Chuck Todd and Reginald the Monkey have been brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. We will come back with Buster Olney. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. What comes to mind when you hear the word gratitude? Maybe it's a daily practice, or maybe it feels hard to be.
Dozen channels, write a million blogs, and launch a...
And you never know. Oh, you never know. I got an ear full of angels singing, please believe.
Boy, oh boy, those first notes, that was a cross of Bruce Springsteen and Chris Christopherson. And that was wow. That was a wow. Rob Gould. Wow. Army of Devils. Michael, if people like Rob Gould want to send in their original music, how do they do it?
Send us your music by emailing it to jingles at Tony.
Here we go. Pamplona coming up.
I really like that.
Yeah, he's
plays in Buster Olney now. And there are, and Buster knows this, and I don't know how many of you people know this. I don't think many of you know this, to be fair. But there are stories, there are assignments when you work for a newspaper. You write the main story, or you write the sidebar. The main story guy tells you what he's going to write, and you pick up the crumbs somewhere else. That's the way it works. There's a main story here in last night's game we're going to get to, but there are 2 sidebars that are worth talking about. One is that bizarre thing that happened in the first inning, bottom of the first, where Mookie Betts goes up, grabs a ball in right field, and then is held by 2 guys out in the outfield who are ripping the ball out of his glove, and he's not even on the ground. And you think, what in God's name is this? That's a sidebar, right? What happened there?
Yeah, and so Jesse Rogers, one of the folks covering the World Series for ESPN, went and spoke with the first fan that you see who's trying to rip the ball out of the glove of Mookie Betts. Their feeling was, it was clear from what they were trying to say, security, their feeling was, if a player comes on our side into foul territory, it's fair game.
What?
And so, they essentially assaulted him in an effort to get the ball away from him, and they think it wouldn't be a thing, right? And the umpire who was down the right field line, Mark Carlson, immediately called fan interference. Their credit with the out, the Dodgers were, but obviously more important, it's the worst thing I've ever seen between a fan and a player. In all the time I've covered baseball, the idea that the fans would have in their mind that it's okay to grab a player, and I'm sure you probably saw Mookie's interview after the game. People are saying he just was trying to take the high road. I think he was really angry, just looking at his face, and I think he, hated the idea that this happened. Mookie's a really good guy, and he did not want to give 1 ounce of attention, 1 second of attention to either one of these guys who, one of the first guy, tried to grab the ball out of Mookie's glove, told Jesse that he was told by folks at Yankee Stadium that they'll be allowed in for tonight's game, that they'll be okay.
There's no chance.
There's no chance. If Major League Baseball got wind of that, are you kidding?
No.
So, the appropriate thing for me would be lifetime ban, and then, you can apply for parole in 10 years.
That's just unbelievable. He's suspended in midair for a while there. If that's Ohtani with a bad shoulder, there's something awful. It's just, that was, on the replay, I watched this. It's insane. They are not allowed anywhere from now on. They should actually be prosecuted. It's really.
I'm just so glad Mookie didn't get hurt.
Yes.
Because that could have been, with his arm extended. Can you imagine if he suffered a hyperextended elbow with those idiots ripping at his arm, trying to get the ball away from him?
And the notion that they can justify that is beyond comprehension. The other thing, and this was a much sweeter moment. At one point in the game, people stood up to cancer, and Dave Roberts held up a sign that said with Charlie Steiner's name on it. Can you explain what that was?
Yeah, of course, Charlie Steiner, longtime broadcaster, for years our colleague at ESPN, then went on to become a broadcaster with the Yankees and then the Dodgers, where he's worked, I think, most of the last 20 years. During the wintertime, the Dodgers announced that Charlie would be taking a step back from his broadcasting duties. Well, it was revealed in a recent column by Bill Plaskey that Charlie is recovering from cancer. And so, for Dave Roberts, who's such a good person,
here's what the running of the Bulls
Charlie's
is.
Name on a placard last night.
Somewhere down there, anyway.
Moment. It was a great moment. Charlie was at the World Series, and I talked to him before Game 1. He is recovering. He's feeling better. To the degree that he was out at the ballpark. It's a really neat moment for Dave, and I look forward to talking to him about that later today.
Good. Okay, those are the sidebars. Now the main story. We are now 3-1. Had it been 4-0, I could make the case that Freddie Freeman is the greatest performance in the history of sports in a series. It's great as far as I'm concerned, but it's 3-1, and it's different now. It is different, and the Yankees know what 3-1 can be after 3-0 because they had that with the Red Sox. So, Buster, what have we learned so far?
And you're right. The Yankees are certainly aware of that. I mean, who was it? Alex Rodriguez said on the Fox postgame show last night, there have been like 5 documentaries on the Red Sox comeback from 3-0 back in 2004. But it's interesting. There have been 24 3-0 deficits in World Series history. No team that was down 3-0 in World Series history has ever even put into a Game 6.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which the Yankees could do if they were to win today. And they do have their ace, Garrett Cole, the second highest paid pitcher in baseball history, taking the mound today. This is why they paid him all that money, for moments like this. He's going to be fully aware as he takes the mound that their bullpen is stressed. And he not only needs to pitch well, but he needs to pitch deep into the game to take pressure off the bullpen. And I would say this, of course the Dodgers wanted to wrap it up last night, but before the game, Dave Roberts told us that he hoped at the very least that he would protect his own bullpen, strategic retreat if they were to lose that game last night. And they were able to do that, and they were able to, as Dave said he wanted to do before the game, stress the Yankees bullpen. So from that perspective, I think the Dodgers are really well set up for tonight. We'll see how Cole pitches, and if what we saw from the Yankees offense last night takes the pressure off them, makes them relax a little bit more, to have a night where they reminded themselves they're a good offensive team. Guys like Aaron Judge, will they relax in tonight's game? We'll see.
So we are sort of conditioned to view the world of sports the way that Herm Edwards views it, where he said famously, you play to win the game. There's a longer-term strategy that Dave Roberts has here. He did the same thing in the NLCS. How does that sit with you? He was, for the greater goal of winning the entire series, he was willing to sacrifice Game 4. I'm not saying he wanted to. I'm saying he was willing. How does that sit with you?
Well, I'm going to sound like the old man shouting at the cloud. I do pine for the days when we don't have these bullpen games. And speaking with the commissioner before Game 4 of the series, before Game 4 of the World Series, we interviewed him. And, it's clear that this is now the biggest issue for baseball. They want to get away from these bullpen games, from these parade of relievers. But given how the sport is played now,
with all, each game seemingly being, 6, 7, 8 relievers coming into games and throwing a short period of time, it absolutely was a smart goal for Dave last night to protect his best guys and to set himself up for Game 5 tonight.
Who is he pitching tonight? Is he going to Flaherty tonight?
Yeah, Flaherty will go tonight, and he threw well in his last start. The previous start, when he worked against the Mets, he was terrible, but he also, by all accounts, was fighting some sort of virus. His fastball velocity was down 3 miles per hour. And look, Garrett Cole's a competitive guy. So is Jack Flaherty. Like, this is a great opportunity for Flaherty, who's going to be a free agent in the fall, to demonstrate, that he can be a front-of-the-rotation type guy. And interestingly, he's facing the Yankees, the team that agreed to make a trade for him just before the deadline, but then killed the trade when they had concerns over his back.
Oh, I didn't know that.
When they did that, when they did the physical examination review just before the trade deadline. And so when that deal fell through, he didn't go to the Yankees. He goes to the Dodgers.
How's that, by the way, for a high school starting staff? You have Flaherty, Max Fried,
Lucas Giolito.
That's a high school starting staff. Are you kidding me? 3 guys?
Harvard. Yeah, Harvard Westlake out in L.A., they had that. Now, Jack, I will say, Ethan Katz was their pitching coach, and he told me that, Jack was actually a third baseman, and they had to convince Jack that, the starting pitching thing might be great for you, that might be your best path, and Jack resisted, finally gave in, and, now he's pitching in Game 5 of the World Series.
So we've got, and Wilbon, of course, leads the charge as to who's disappointed in everything. I mean, if the Cubs aren't in it, it's a terrible World Series. And now he says the series stinks. He said this yesterday at 3-0, series stinks. You have the 2 biggest stars in baseball. They're going to win the MVPs, deservedly, Ohtani and Judge. They have 1 hit each. Ohtani doesn't even look like he can swing. I mean, really, honestly, doesn't look like he should be out there. Does that detract from this World Series to you in some way?
No, not really, because I think I've just seen, as you have, so many World Series where, the best players in any given, 5, 6, 7 games aren't necessarily the biggest stars in the World Series. It's great when it does happen, when you get Mr. October, Reggie Jackson in 77 and 78, when you get Derek Jeter, but most of the time it doesn't play out that way, right?
That's right.
I am going to be curious to see if Judge, were to step it up. It's been really interesting because, I had years of covering the Yankees, and seeing how the fans have adopted George Steinbrenner's doctrine that if you don't win the World Series, you stink. This is the first example that I've seen where it feels like the Yankee fans actually have some serious empathy for Aaron Judge. Like, they keep on trying to will him at the ballpark, giving him the standing ovation.
Yes.
The talk radio here in New York about, man, we need to lift him up and giving him an ovation the way the Phillies fans did with Trey Turner in 2023, and try to will him forward, and they have not booed him yet. And the teams, they booed Mariano Rivera, they booed Derek Jeter, they boo everybody, and they really haven't booed Judge, despite the fact that you can make a statistical argument based on how he's performed so far. This is the worst World Series performance by a superstar player so far. It could turn around today, but it hasn't so far. And I got to say, the Yankee fans actually have felt sorry for him because they know Judge cares desperately.
Yes.
And he's trying, and that is the biggest problem. He's trying too hard, I think, in a lot of his plate appearances.
Just a small little question here. Is anybody in America slower than Giancarlo Stanton? Is anybody? Like, everybody, I said this yesterday on TV, everybody scores on that. Most score standing up. He's the slowest guy I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's just not right physically. And it's interesting because when he was a younger player, he actually ran pretty well. But he's gotten older. He definitely slowed down. And interestingly, that particular move that he made from second base to home, on the feet per second that they can now clock with StatCast,
Scary.
that was the fastest he's run the bases all year. What we saw the other night before he got thrown out, statistically the fastest he's ever moved.
Well, you time that guy with a sundial. I mean, that's really slow. All right, obviously the Dodgers just need 1. And obviously the Yankees have been in this situation, and they know that you can, as it happened to them, come back from 0-3 and you can win. The Red Sox did it to them. Who you got right now?
Well, I picked the Yankees at 6 before the World Series started, so I'm a complete idiot, and I have no credit when it comes to, no credibility at all in making picks. I do think the Yankees are going to win tonight. I think their fan base is energized. I think Garrett Cole will be energized. I think it'll be really hard for them to come all the way back. Captain Obvious there. I mean, there's a reason why it's only happened once in baseball history, and I think it's going to be really hard for the Yankees, especially with this in this era of fragmented pitching staffs and relying on bullpen so much. There's not a Madison Bumgarner coming through that door to carry the team for the last games. And so I just, putting together 3 games against the Dodger offense would be really tough.
Yeah, I agree with that. By the way, any ice cream stores in New York City that you can recommend to the listeners?
I have my ice cream research has been on hold. I'll see if
you're working, so it's okay. It's all right.
Right.
Thank you, Buster.
All right.
Buster only, boys and girls. Wonderful. We'll take a break, come back with email and jingle. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food. No matter what you're craving, from 2-for-1 pizza to buy one get.
Here comes Tony's mailbag. Gonna read some for all of you folks.
It's Tim Wildsmith. It's lovely to listen to. It is. You want to do the Bethesda Bagel ad for us?
Yes, Bethesda Bagels, we love them. You will as well. Just go to BethesdaBagels.com, forward a location in the DC area nearest you, then pop one in, my friend, and you will be thrilled.
That just about does it for us. Before we get to the mailbag, let me say, when I look out my window, many sights to see. And when I look in my window, so many different people to be, that it's strange. So strange. You got to pick up every stitch. You got to pick up every stitch. Oh no, must be the season of the witch. It's a great song. It's Donovan.
The Scottish Bob Dylan.
It's a great song. It's a scary, spooky, great song. Thanks to our guests today, Chuck Todd, Buster Olney.
Ohio State with another touchdown, going to be 21-10 here.
Podcast, Spotify, and Odyssey. Get the show through Apple Podcasts. Please leave us a review. We had that wonderful song by Norwegian Soft Kitten.
Oh yes,
the other day.
I'm the manager of a
convenience store. From Thomas R. Bogert in Scappoose. I hope it's pronounced correctly. Scappoose, Oregon, a mere 81 miles from Tillamook. I heard the song by Norwegian Soft Kitten. I'm the manager of a convenience store, and I thought, wait a minute, I am one of those. After 20 plus years as a full-service restaurant manager for Cracker Barrel and Eaton Park restaurants, I've spent the last 5 years as a manager in various roles for Love's Travel Stops in the Portland, Oregon area. Does this count as my David Aldrich moment? I humbly request that I be granted the esteemed honor to be named the official convenience store manager of the greater Portland, Oregon region. Sure.
Yeah.
I've watched the PTI show from the beginning. I never miss an episode. I have 3 children that grew up watching me watch you. Thank you for what you do.
Did you ever eat at Cracker Barrel?
One time, I think.
Did you get the chicken fried steak?
No, I think I got eggs at a Cracker Barrel. I never ate at, what's the other one with the chocolate fountain?
Oh, the Golden Corral.
I never ate at the Golden Corral, I'm afraid.
Well, that's where the company Christmas party is this year, so you'll have that chance. Sort of waiting for that to be a surprise.
Patrick Sitter in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I'm the manager of a convenience store. Could that be a song Matt Eberflus will soon be singing? Funny. All right, last night you probably saw this when everybody did the Stand Up to Cancer. Dave Roberts mentioned Charlie Steiner in that. Joe Davis mentioned Charlie Steiner in that. They had written the names. So I'm going to read some of these. From Lane Applegate in Island Heights, New Jersey, your show has provided a roller coaster of emotions, but never such highs as the one for Charlie Steiner. You gave your time and support, but most of all, you gave your love to your friends going through cancer treatments and the road afterwards, especially since you can't take them in your arms and hug them. Made us all cry, but it was good. From Tony in Muscatine, Iowa, a city that Al Michaels drove to several years ago. He shared that with me during an interview on my radio show. Okay. Wow. I didn't have crying in my kitchen on my Sunday morning bingo card. I was getting caught up on Friday's pod when you started talking about Charlie Steiner. As a longtime little, I want you to know that was the most poignant thing you've ever said or done on your show. Calling your friend to say I love you was so moving. I wish that more men would do the same.
I'm not sure what happened,
regardless of the
but it's only
circumstance.
20-10 Ohio State, not 21-10.
Sometimes the person to whom I'm related by marriage questions why I listened to the other Tony, and I was happy to share this clip with her, which caused her to tear up as well. From Bob Flynn for the wonderful, genuine discussion.
Well, I think the touchdown's under
about
review.
Charlie
I think he
Steiner's-
fumbled before he crossed the goal line, so back to 14-10, and I think it's a touchback for Penn State, so that's a huge call. 14-10, now Penn State's ball.
Okay to break the format. That's why we love the show. From Jason Blazer in Lake Orion or Lake Orion, Michigan. Well, thanks for making me teary-eyed while driving to my following account work during Work Friday. My following account during Work Friday. If I wanted to write in, if for nothing else, beyond catharsis, I can and do tend to be a fairly callous son of a curse word. I've seen a few loved ones pass, and although they have been told I love you, my number one insecurity is that I don't do that well enough before it's too late. So to sum up, your show might stink. I might generally use it for laughs, gambling advice from Carville, Ma, and Reginald, but today was a heartfelt reminder of how to be a better man. Thanks for everything you and your bigs have meant to me for the last 20 years. Jason Blazer, thank you. From Shad in D.C. You're not the only one crying. Thank you for sharing. From Mark Eisenhower, not that Eisenhower, I'm a long-time listener and reader. One, I was Rufus Peabody's freshman administrator at T.C. Williams. Wow. Whoa! Two, after retiring, I moved to Lewis. And now I drive by your street on the way to Rise Gym, and no, I'm not responsible for your high water bill. And three, your story about Charlie Steiner caused me to immediately call my wife and several close friends just to say I love you. That's it. That's the list. That's really nice. All of you, thank you very much. From Gus Karayanis in South Glens Falls, New York, which I know well. Listening to today's podcast, and after your reading of Ashley Porter's email about the backstory to Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, you said you knew it had nothing to do with the podcast, but you found it fascinating. I, and I'm sure many of your listeners, found your statement puzzling. Were you implying that this podcast has some sort of defined topic list? Gershwin somehow doesn't fit in with discussions about coffee ice creams, outlets, and sand traps, or kangaroo mascots, lunar cycles, or blossom end rot? I've been listening to you since the ESPN radio days. I've yet to miss an episode of this podcast, and I admit to never realizing certain subjects were somehow off limits. He's right. Yeah, come on, man. Come on.
Honestly.
From Ross Cohn in Pittsburgh, formerly Silver Spring. With all of you talk of West Side Story recently, I'm wondering if you'd indulge in a plug for some performances of the score coming up in and around Pittsburgh. Sure. I'm a proud member of the River City Brass, America's only full-time professional brass band since our inception in 1981. The medium is not so common here in the States, but perhaps Nigel is familiar with some of the fabulous bands in the UK where this musical tradition originated. In addition to all the commonly known brass instruments, we've got 2 euphoniums and a flugelhorn, both favorites in your mailbag theme rotation, that's true. And I have the pleasure of playing the even less common baritone horn. I'll spare your listeners the minutiae of all the niche instruments on stage, but suffice to say the band has a sound that will grab you by the collar and demand your attention, as well as a clarity and nuance that we're all quite proud of these days. On top of that, a charming and engaging Scottish conductor who makes for an entertaining tour guide through the program. Our Broadway-themed show this month will feature a suite from West Side Story and selections from a dozen or so other Broadway hits scored for brass band. Concerts start this weekend and run through the following week. We make it our mission to get out to all of Pittsburgh's surrounding suburbs. So if you live in the area, we are sure to be at a theater near you. Check out www.rivercitybrass.org for dates and locations. Find my picture on the musicians page, and if you come to a show, come find me and hit me with a little cheesery. Many thanks, Ross Cohn. That's lovely.
That
I
is.
hope that's this weekend, and I hope that works.
Yeah.
Oh, Hampton Nager. We haven't heard from Hampton a while in Dallas.
We love Hampton.
On Friday, you read an email containing a traffic report for Des Moines, Iowa. And it occurs to me that Des Moines is French for some monks. So now I'm wondering, what happened to the other monks? I'd like to think that back when our protagonist settlement on the Raccoon River was known as Tout le Monde, or all the monks in English, David Falk got in the ear of the head abbot, and they petitioned the Catholic Church to come in as an expansion team. Instead, the church raided their showboating crowd pleaser monks, I assume the ones that made beer and hard candies and also had reliable mid-range jump shots, and left the remaining monks to toil in the minors, illuminating tourist guides and giving reliable directions to Davenport. This franchise, now known as Des Moines, after a cease and desist letter from the head office in Rome, was not long for the world and folded a few years later. I hear you can still find old-timers tending bar in town who will tell you about the good old days, when women were women and men were monks, and the monks went 32-3 and won the league. Furiously editing a stub article on Wikipedia, I am Hampton Nager, Dallas, Texas. Brilliant. We haven't heard him in years.
It was
glad
great.
to have him back.
Yeah.
Jim Cudahy, Locust Grove, Virginia. If the game is obscure museums, I'll have a go. Though I live in Virginia, I run a trio of nonprofit organizations in Madison, Wisconsin. Each year, our staff makes a field trip that's one part team building and one part education. The occasion is known as Stelly Day, and this past August, our Stelly Day field trip was to the Mustard Museum in the adjacent hamlet of Middleton. I'd love to say there's a whole lot more to the Mustard Museum than one might think, but it's mustard. That's all. That's the list. The experience was pleasant enough, though, led by the museum's founder and curator, Barry Levinson. Not that Barry Levinson, the great writer and director of films. He led us through the history of the museum, a tale that took us to some peculiar places, including that Mr. Levinson once argued a case before the Supreme Court. He had just been to a posh DC restaurant for lunch, might have been the Palm, where he absconded with a small jar of mustard from the table, which he subsequently had in his pocket when he stood to argue a Fourth Amendment case in 1986 known as Griffin v. Wisconsin. As Mr. Levinson told the tale, at one point, Sandra Day O'Connor interrupted him and said, "Pardon me, counsel, is that a jar of mustard in your pocket, or are you just that happy to be here?" Unfortunately, that was not his only joke, nor his worst, WURC, if you get the gist. I must assume Mr. Levinson's legal skills in the day were far superior to his comedic skills of today. They'd have to be. It's a great email. One more. Chris Bancells, Forest Hill, Maryland. The other day, my youngest child, a masculine child, casually announced that he seems to get his homework done better with Mr. Tony's voice in the background. So please tell this newest little 14-year-old Ryan to eat it. Thanks, Chris Bancells. Just wonderful. If you're on our bike tonight, as always, everybody, do wear white.
Hello. Would you like to have a holiday? It's fun.
Hey, it's
All right. Well, we are. As I just bashed my wrist against the table, we are running out of light, as you can see. I think we're going to try to land in Bilbao, Spain. I'm very sure I'm mispronouncing that, but I think it's the LEBB airport on the VFR map. I think that's where we'll try to land, or approaching the coast of the northern coast of Spain. But we will be landing once we get to the LEBB airport. I think that's Bilbao, Spain. But now we will move on, in the meantime, to Friday's, November 1st, episode of the Tony Kornheiser Show. Ohio State and Penn State are still 14-10, but Ohio State has the ball back. But it's not 21-10, so that's good news for Penn State. Still competitive, almost halftime. But here we go, on to the next Tony Kornheiser Show from Friday, November 1st, which is just yesterday as I record this.
Tony. On today's show, we'll go around the NFL with Jason Lockenfor, and we'll check in with James Carville and Jeff Ma to get their weekly football picks. But first, commerce.
Worried about letting someone else pick out the perfect app applies last. Minimum $10.
And sell your car the convenient way. Terms and conditions apply. Previously on the Tony Kornheiser Show.
I'm done with them. We're not going to have that anymore. What do you mean you don't show up? And you not only don't show up, you don't text.
Yeah.
They text you constantly. You get texts in the middle of the night for a service 3 days later.
If someone recognized you while you're standing outside the studio, would you have considered the ride?
No. Could have been a maniac. No, I thought that I would kill her and said, well, take the metro and then a bus. I go, no, I'm not playing that game.
The Tony Kornheiser Show is on now.
Let me go back over this for a second. BLS limousines, they're out. Nobody should take them. They didn't show up. They didn't show up. They didn't text. They didn't contact me. They simply didn't show up. What's that? So we got another company. The name of which escapes me at the moment, but it was fine. It was fine. Anyway, I got a lot of things to read here. The Breeders' Cup is on Saturday. That's tomorrow.
Yes.
I didn't realize that. We got this note from George Millet. Your discussion about the pronunciation of Lewis made me happy. My mother was born in Lewis. The woman to whom I'm related by marriage, Kathy, and I had dinner at the Lewis Oyster House earlier this month. It was exquisite. I have a hometown horse you can root for in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile on Saturday. Post Time is a Maryland-bred 4-year-old. His trainer, Brittany Russell, is a young go-getter based in Laurel in Maryland. Brittany isn't afraid to get on her horses herself in the mornings to assess their fitness. When I grabbed Secretariat's grandson, Brahma Fear, off the track in 2009, Brittany was still a kid and was the first person to hop on Brahma and take him on long trail rides. She accompanied me on my first rides on Brahma, showing me how to bridge my reins at a full gallop. She's awesome. Getting back to my dirt mile pick, Post Time was such a naughty boy when he was 2 that he reportedly dumped riders. So his exercise rider, Eric Camacho, also rode him in the races. Post Time won every race he ran as a 2-year-old. He's never finished on the money since. Eric, incidentally, was the jock who broke my Brahma when Brahma won his first race at Pimlico. I'm in a David Aldrich moment whenever Post Time runs, called equine connective tissue. And then he's included a photograph of the gunmetal gray handsome Post Time at Del Mar this week. Yes, sure. One more Breeders' Cup note. The Japanese horse Andy Byron I liked in the Kentucky Derby, Forever Young, is back in the States for the Breeders' Cup Classic. He's the best horse in the race and was 8-1 last time I checked the odds. I'm going to make some money on my $2 win bet. Hope Byers on the show this Friday. We didn't know, George. We didn't know that the Breeders' Club was this Friday. You know why we didn't know? Because horse racing doesn't exist in the Washington Post anymore. Doesn't exist on ESPN. Just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Horse racing is being given to the small group of people who like horse racing and find places to know what the schedule is. You know, so I don't know. And so, but I don't know anything. I can't get in tournaments at Columbia because everything is on the website, and I can't get on the website because I don't know how to get on the website. So
you're looking forward to the turkey shootout.
I can't play in it. I'm the 10th alternate. I didn't even know about it. So I have to call the pro shop all the time and basically say, hold my hand here, just tell me what's this week or what's next week.
Fourth?
What have I missed? Yeah,
Nice.
can I jump into a group? It's just awful. I have other things to talk. Do you know that Giannis Antetokounmpo, according to Wilbon, is about to be traded? Like they're going to trade him? That Milwaukee is so awful. And Doc Rivers walked into the worst situation of all time. And he's going to get fired at the end of the year. Milwaukee's apparently awful, and they're going to trade Giannis. You know what I think? I think Giannis is a coach killer. I do. I think he may be a team killer. He's a great player.
Sure.
But he's gotten rid of a couple of coaches already. I definitely think he's a coach killer. LeBron's a coach killer. Doesn't mean you're a bad player. You're a great player.
So does he go to Los Angeles?
I don't know where he goes. I don't know. Go to Los Angeles with Anthony Davis?
Sure.
Does that make any sense? Can that work?
Probably not.
I was Alex Ovechkin yesterday on PTI. It was good. Matt Williamson gave me gloves and shoulder pads and a helmet and a stick, and they went out and bought an OV thing, and of course the coup de grace on being Alexander Ovechkin. They wanted me to be an old man, and I said I am an old man. And they said Wilbon's going to be an old man. I said, let Wilbon be what he wants to be. I don't want to be an old man because I am an old man. And you know, when I'm tired of being made fun of because I'm an old man, although I do it most of myself. So I do most of it myself. But in any case, so they said, would you be Alexander Ovechkin? I said, sure.
Did you do the quote? Did you do the quote?
Which quote?
We're not gonna.
Oh, no, I can't do that on the air.
Stanley Cup speech.
Yeah, I can't do that on the air. The Stanley Cup winning speech, yeah. So the coup de grace on the whole thing is they blackened out my front left tooth because Alex Ovechkin has no tooth in there. He wears a bridge when he wants to have teeth, and he has no tooth in there. And I was afraid of this. I was afraid that they'd use magic marker, or I was afraid that whatever would go on there would never come off. It would take weeks to come off. And Rydon put it on first on his own tooth and got it off with an alcohol rub. So a little bit of alcohol on a Q-tip, and it came off.
They also
But I was scared, and I didn't really want to do that. And I think it looked pretty good, though. My guess is it looked pretty good.
It did look great,
It made me
especially.
laugh, right?
It makes a good reveal. Yeah, because there's you in the outfit, and then you grin, and you see your tooth black. It was great.
Yeah.
And then you.
I give Rydon credit.
I was worried you dipped into the Halloween candy a little early and found a Swedish fish. There was some discussion that maybe they would use licorice,
No, we're not going to use licorice.
like a
No,
licorice.
we're not going to play Stonehead.
And then you had the hockey gloves, and you didn't know what to do with the gloves.
No, I toss them off. I dropped the gloves because I couldn't turn the paper. The other thing is I couldn't get my glasses on underneath the shield of the helmet, so I was blind yesterday, totally blind. The World Series is over. We didn't even get a chance to talk about the ending. It's just a terrible inning for the Yankees. The fifth inning, it's 5-0. It's the fourth or the fifth.
It's the fifth. When you see the super cut of it, it looks even worse.
It's just, the Aaron Judge error is
Straight off the
unfathomable.
glove, and particularly how he started the game.
It's never happened. He had no errors this season.
The whole season.
He's a good fielder.
Yeah.
That you knew right then. I mean, I bailed out.
I just wonder if he got chesty after that big catch earlier in the game.
He made a good catch on Freddie
Barreled
Freeman.
into the wall.
Freddie Freeman, the most deserved Hall of Famer, the most deserved MVP of all time. Because after the faux pas by Garrett Cole, who, by the way, had allowed no hits in 4 innings. No hits, he was
Cruising. Yeah.
After the faux pas and he doesn't cover first, Freddie Freeman's the next guy up and he delivers a real hit. And it brings in 2 runs. And then Teoscar Hernandez delivers a real hit and it brings in 2 runs. And so now it's 5-5. It's a terrible, terrible inning.
Do you stay up for Blake Trinan?
No, I saw him the next day. I hate Blake Trinan. But of course he pitched very well. He pitched like 50 pitches.
Yeah, got the win. And that was the big moment where Roberts came out and said, "Is everything all right out here?"
Yeah.
And settled down.
And then they go to Walker Buehler, a guy who missed, 2/3 of the season because he had a bad arm. They go to Walker Buehler for the second time in 3 days, and he gives him an inning. And Walker Buehler's ERA in 6 innings in the World
16
Series.
seconds before halftime, still 14-10, but Penn State is driving. Might get a field goal, possibly a touchdown right before halftime.
0-0, a blue tar season. Okay, that's what it is. Walker Buehler had himself a wonderful couple of games, and the Dodgers win. Do I think the Dodgers are a better team than the Yankees? Yeah, but I think the Yankees are really good. The Yankees don't run the bases well, and obviously they didn't field well.
There's a discipline to the approach the batters took that you saw all postseason, where they just were not going to let themselves be out of the game. They just took walks, they worked counts.
Yeah. I mean, I love the World Series. I love the playoffs. And by the way, the World Series ratings were the highest in about 8 or 9 years. They dwarf the NBA Finals ratings. Dwarf it.
Yankees Dodgers, that's
Yes,
great.
right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Last year, the ratings were terrible because it was Texas
and Arizona.
And Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah, and you go back, you had a single game in the 19 World Series, the Game 7, that had a monster number.
Yeah.
And it's interesting as a viewer.
Game 7 always gets it.
The games were, in terms of just spectacle, they were in descending order from 1 through the first 4, and then 5 is a separation. But it was good to see the numbers back.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah, I was happy about that.
Now, if only we could get another afternoon start for one of the games. That'd be great. 1 o'clock, take the kids out of school.
That'd be nice.
Now, if you're a Yankee fan and you hear you hear Juan Soto say what he said,
he's open for business.
You Bilbao in the distance where we're going to land.
You don't think he'll go? Do you see him on the field just taking
Penn
it all
State
in?
just completed a pass down to about the 2-yard line. This would be huge if they got a touchdown before halftime.
Everywhere he goes, if they're already a good team, has a chance to be in the World Series.
Yes.
But he's been in the World Series now with the Yankees, and they treated him very well.
They certainly did. And you couldn't have better protection
than Aaron Judge.
He's had 120 home runs in 2 years. Everyone always talks about a hometown discount. You look at the Yankees and you go like, there should be a Yankees
touchdown Penn State. They'll have the lead at halftime.
As long as you can.
Overturned touchdown and touchback for Ohio State going up 21-10 is going to be huge.
It's who's his agent? It's Scott Boras.
Yes.
Scott Boras got pummeled last year. He's going to want to win big, and the only way Scott Boras wins big is money per year, overall money, length of contract. He had to sign guys to basically 1-year deals.
Yeah.
Like Blake Snell. Now, Blake Snell is going to get rewarded, but that's not what Blake Snell wanted. I have to tell a quick story here. This is my moth story.
Oh, no.
It's my moth story. I have sweaters. I have some cashmere sweaters, some of which were given to me by Mallory Crossland with the Ryder Cup insignia on them. And I have some that I bought on my own, and I have some merino wool sweaters. And I have moths in my house, and I can't get rid of these moths. I don't know where their nest is. I don't know what happens. I know that I open up even the cedar chest sometimes, and there's holes in sweaters. It's not supposed to happen. The cedar chest is supposed to block moths. I hate moths with the passion of 1,000 suns. And I want to get rid of these moths because this is what happened. I went and I bought last year a fully zip-up, not one of these dopey quarter zips or half zips, not the Peyton Manning sweater. I bought a real adult sweater.
Like a Mr. Rogers house sweater.
Yes, but with a zipper, not with buttons. I consider cardigans to have buttons, but excuse me, this may be considered a cardigan. That's very possible. So I bought this. It's deep blue, navy blue, dark. It's 100% merino wool. It's not as good as cashmere, but it's nice wool. And I bought it off the clearance rack at Brooks Brothers in Delaware, which has since closed. I bought a lot of things off the clearance rack. I bought my orange pants.
That's right.
Off the clearance rack. I bought 3 or 4 sport jackets in the last 5 to 6 years off the clearance rack. They were originally like $500. I'm getting them for $110. It's great shopping. It just feels so good. They're nice jackets. I like them. I wanted them. And they were tremendously inexpensive.
They reversed the touchdown for Penn State now, so still 14-10, 11 seconds left.
Because it's last year's style. And other than Michael Wilbon, who knows what last year's style is in sport coats? Who knows? Nobody knows.
The Navy blazer hasn't changed in 100 years.
Doesn't change. So I got this sweater for $50 on the clearance rack. They claim originally it was $250. That's a false claim, obviously. If they're selling it to me for $50, they're probably still making money. Probably cost $10 to make. But I like the sweater. And I had it last winter, and now I looked at it going into this winter, and I saw a small hole in the right chest area, on the right-hand side of the zipper. I saw a small hole, and I needed to get it fixed. So I brought it to the place.
Gonna land at Bilbao in just a second. All right, and somehow Penn State does not score. It must have been a turnover. 14-10 at halftime. I'm not sure what happened.
I just had this sweater for 1 year. 1 year. I bring it in to the presidential valet, and I show it to the woman at the counter. It's very, very nice, and has worked on clothing of mine before. And she finds a lot of little holes. She finds 13 little holes, or maybe 15 little holes. And I'm standing there, my eyes wide, appalled. I'm appalled because there's so many holes. I hate these moths so much, or maybe it's just one moth. I don't know.
That sounds like a nest is in the sweater.
Moths lay their eggs in wool, and the eggs hatch, and the baby moths eat the sweater. That's, as I understand it. I could be completely wrong. We can get 10 emails saying, "Who told you that? That's insane. That's not okay." Just tell me how I can get rid of moths. And I called American Pest. I said, "You people come over here, all the you people, you come over here all the time to kill ticks and mosquitoes." Well, there are no mosquitoes anymore in November.
Oh, they're still here. But
okay,
yes.
How about killing moths? And they said, "Yeah, we can do that." And I said, "So I made an appointment." But the kicker on the story is, to fix the sweater, a $50 sweater, $50, the great joy of my life, $95 to fix the sweater.
You're getting close to the list price.
I'm going up the ladder, exactly, up the ladder to list. That's exactly what's happening. Eventually, this sweater will cost me $250 to fix, and then I'll just stick my head through it, through one of the holes, and my fingers in my head.
Do you think
I hate these moths.
Do you think that somehow that Brooks Brothers and the moths and
Have a consortium?
the sewing people are all tied in together? They're like, we'll get our money back. It's like the Apple products.
I didn't hesitate for one. She looked at me, and she said, "This is what it would cost." I didn't hesitate for any time. No, do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
I'll do it at double that.
Yeah, get
Because
it
I
done.
want this sweater to
You
be
consider
fixed.
getting a couple of patches
I wanted the sweater. I don't want patches. I'm not Mr. Rogers specifically.
right on the
I don't want
elbows?
patches. Those, you know what, elbow patches on corduroy sport coats is cool.
That works.
Yeah, that's
but
50 years old. That's cool.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore, I don't think.
So
So
what-
that's my moth story.
what
I
we-
hate these moths.
what we're
I
looking
don't even
for-
know where they are and how they get in.
They probably come in late summer when you're grilling. This is what we're looking for. Attention, all littles. A lepidopterist. Okay?
Is that what the call?
That is
people?
a moth expert. Is a lepidopterist.
Just I want the moths. I want them out of my house. In the same way I wanted Blake Trinan and wanted Sparrow out of my house. Go somewhere else and be happy.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a negotiation now.
multiply, be great, have a great life. Just don't have that life here. $95.
Yeah, you got to. You have to. You can't just live with one. Yes,
Have to,
you know.
have to fix it. All right, who's first?
Jason.
Jason Luckenfora when we return on Tony Kornheiser.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is a FanDuel read. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1
Kentucky, Louisiana, per 150 for 24.
dress shirts, blazers, and more. And Indochino's latest fall-winter collection combines classic tailoring with contemporary aesthetics. It's fantastic.
Chance on board. That's great.
Fantastic.
Everybody knows you can design it any way you like. It's a great price.
All about the lining.
Yes, all about the lining.
And the pocket, the pen pocket.
Yes.
The
Yeah,
fall-winter
that's a
collection skillfully infuses traditional tailoring with modern sharp lines for the perfect finishing touch. Plus, you can design the suit of your dreams and fine-tune every detail, including, Visit Indochino.com and use the code TonyK to get 10% off any purchase of $399 or more. That's 10% off at INDOCHINO.com. The promo code is TonyK. Use the code, people.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is Eric Stir, who records under the name of Whatever Penny. He's from Lawrenceville, New Jersey, and he says he didn't have Ruth say, I'm a better listener. Did we talk about Ruth the other day?
I think we might have,
Yeah, we talked about that. He says, hello to Mr. Tony and the rest of the gang. Attaches my new song, Moving On, which is out now on all major streaming platforms. It's a song about coming to terms with the loss of my father and how one can work through grief and the mysticism of death. I'm roughly the same age as Michael, with kids roughly the same age as his, and the relationship between you two is definitely something I miss now. Naturally, this is coming from the same person who wrote the T-Boy Latchley jingle, so go figure. You can find this and more of my music on all major streaming platforms or at whateverpenny.bandcamp.com. And this again is, what's this called?
Moving On.
Very lovely. Nice. It plays in Jason La Canfora, and so I have to read. We're joined by Odyssey NFL insider Jason La Canfora, host of the podcast In the Huddle, covering the entire NFL. I know it's going to be so much fun for you to talk about Aaron Rodgers, but I'm not going to get to him first. If you don't mind. I'll just tell you this. I'll probably say it again because I'm so old that I forget. I turned that game off after the first quarter. It was awful.
Good for you.
It was 0-0, and it was actually awful. And I didn't want to watch anymore, and I will get to it. But let's get to the news out of Indianapolis, that the Indianapolis Colts have benched Sean Steichen, who was an offensive coach in the league for 10 years before he got this job. He has benched Anthony Richardson, who was an unheard of quarterback before the combine and then wowed everybody with his athletic ability, got drafted overall number 4, got given the team, given the Indianapolis Colts. Go ahead, you start. Got hurt, came back. He's terrible now. His numbers are actually terrible. And he took a play off because he said he was tired, which I don't think is in the Warrior code for football. And he got benched. What do you think of all of it?
Well, I did weigh in on this in the Post a few weeks back, and guys I talk to regularly, guys whose opinions I really trust and who are pretty level-headed, we're all in agreement on this one. They should have stuck with Joe Flacco in the first place. And this kid is still just 22 years old. He barely played in college. He's had difficulty playing, 50 snaps at a time at the NFL level without having a setback in practice or a game due to an injury of some point, of some caliber. They were sitting there right at 500. The AFC is kind of there. And not that I think the Colts are a Super Bowl contender, but you're winning some games, and you've got this kid Josh Downs now showing up downfield, and you're overcoming some injuries, and I just don't know what the rush was to have to put him back in there.
Gonna let the autopilot land us because I gotta end this college football game that I've got going on the PlayStation 5 here.
So that when or if he runs out of steam or he gets banged up, you put Richardson back there, and the team's in a good spot, and there's not as much pressure on him, and maybe you're a couple games over 500. I think they mismanaged it there because if you watch them closely, you can see that his development has been stunted, and him going back into that team right now probably wasn't going to bring out the best in him. And him watching Joe Flacco and seeing how an established, proven winning quarterback handles a team, not just game day, but all 7 days of the week, especially doing so at a time when they're winning and they're doing some things that people didn't think they were going to do. I just didn't see the harm in that. You got this kid you think for the long term and you think he's your future, but that doesn't mean he has to be everything about your present. So I'm not surprised it got sideways. I'm not surprised they made it. I feel like they had to make this decision last week.
He's completing 44% of his passes. That's awful.
No, it's look, you knew he was going to be a risk-reward guy. The thing was, could he do 8 to 10 things each week that not many people can do so that we can live with the 3 to 4, maybe 5, where we're like, ooh, that's a teaching point. Ooh, that's a learning moment.
Right.
The problem is it's more like 3 to 4 positive and 8 to 10. Like, what the hell was that?
Okay. Let me get to Flacco, who we've seen for many, many years. Why on earth didn't Cleveland keep him last year? He took them to the playoffs.
Because Deshaun Watson didn't want him in the building. And they got rid of their play caller. Like, why did they do that? Well, because that's a threat to Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson doesn't want to be on an offense. That's play action, 7-step drop, deep throws to Cooper, deep throws to Njoku. Let's see how far you can push it down the field in the seam. Like, that's not where he is. He wants to, he wants to chuck and duck and get off the field. Like, he was throwing the ball not even 5 yards downfield. So, and you saw what happened. They catered it to him. He got those guys out of the building, and he went to the owner, and hey, we got to do it this way, and it's going to be better this year. And he's throwing the ball 4.5 yards downfield, and he's taking sacks, and they have no explosive plays whatsoever. And their play action game sucks. And Jameis Winston comes out there one game, and he's shredding the Baltimore Ravens with play action passes downfield. And he doesn't even have Amari Cooper because they traded him.
Yeah.
He got killed, and nobody in the Ravens secondary can stop Cedric Dillon. So, I mean, it's politics. It's the sordid web you weave when you bring him in and you make him the face of everything, and he's empowered directly by the owner, not the football people. And they're a joke franchise. They haven't done anything particularly well thought out or reasoned since Jimmy Haslam took over. Certainly for not any consistent period of time.
Right.
And they'll win some games with James still. And look, he might throw 3 picks against the Chargers this weekend. He should have thrown at least 2 last week. But at least you get some of those explosive plays. You get energy. You get more fun on your sidelines. You get guys who feel like, I'm not just going to run 50 routes today to catch 4 balls for 15 yards like I was with the other guy. Like, I'm gonna run all those routes. At least I'm gonna get a chance to make a play on the ball downfield sometime. Like, it'll be better. It already is better. The problem is it's too late.
Yeah, it is too late for them. I thought it was too late for the Jets, but the Jets did win last night in a game that I stopped watching because I just felt it was awful. Although I missed that one great catch. That's a spectacular catch, one-handed. That's spectacular. What did we learn from last night, if anything?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing. The Texans, if you weren't paying attention, the Texans are super flawed. Don't get fooled by their record because it's not last year's version. The offensive coordinator who people wanted to anoint and make a head coach is not very good. The quarterback has never looked good on the road, ever, even last year. The offensive line is god-awful. And they're winning with their defense, and you can do that, and that's fine. But then, Will Anderson gets beat up, a few guys get beat up. And, they kind of run out of steam, and Aaron Rodgers takes advantage a little bit in the second half. But, I mean, you couldn't have watched that game for much of a period of time and thought much of the Jets.
No.
Their defense continues to come up smaller and smaller each week. And then Bobby Slowick would have had a little more multiplicity in the run game and realized just what poor form his quarterback was in and how, he had 2 guards who don't belong in the NFL and tackles who were just getting by. I think he could have managed that game a little differently. And they also, feel like they had, Texans field goal kicker missed a 27-yarder, like a 27-yarder. Fairbairn, the guy who was bombing them from 62 or whatever early in the season and drilling them. Like, they're flawed teams. The Jets aren't going anywhere. The Jets aren't beating any good teams. And Aaron Rodgers did get knocked around some again. And again, they're very vulnerable against the run. And if they have to play from behind against a half-decent team, there's no chance.
Okay. All right. Well, tell me this.
The Texans are in trouble. The Texans.
I think that Stroud has taken discernible steps backwards. I really do. And texted Wilbon last night.
It's not the same. The offensive line is not performing that well. The weird thing is he has a run game this year, which he didn't last year. But
he's got
not the same without Nico Collins. You lose Nico Collins.
Yeah, he's a really good player.
You lose Diggs. Tank Dell is kind of not thriving like he did last year. And again, I think the offensive coordinator, I think he's got a lot of learning to do.
All right, we're halfway. We're halfway through the season, basically. Are there a couple of teams you truly believe in, you think are really good, that may not be tip of the tongue to most people?
Well, I think the Rams are going to be good. I think the Rams are in the process of becoming good. And if you recall last year, the Rams looked left for dead. They were 3-6. People were
Yeah, they finished 7-1.
But should they trade Aaron Donald? Should they trade Matt Stafford? Should they trade Cooper Kupp? Like, I seem to remember all this going on last October, and Matt Stafford played like an MVP in the second half, and the defense and offensive line got a lot better, and people started to find out who Tyron Williams was, and they took off. And I think they can do it again. I think they're in the process of doing it again. That defense, another couple of weeks, people are going to realize how talented it is. And, I mean, they're not paying anybody any money. It might be the cheapest defense in NFL history. And they're really starting to come together. And, you know, they got, you know, Nakua getting hurt in practice yesterday gives me a little pause. But you saw what the energy he brought last Thursday when he was back, and Cooper Kupp was back. And that's a great coach, and that's a really good quarterback if you just give him enough time to operate. So I'm bullish on the Rams. I like them more than anybody else in that division. And I mean, does Detroit address its defensive line and its pass rush without Aiden Hutchinson? Like, if they don't, then they're in trouble. Baltimore's defense is god-awful. I mean, their pass defense is abject failure at all three levels. Like, I can't call them an elite team. I don't care how good the offense is. The special teams are wonky at best, and the defense, the pass defense, sucks. The Chiefs know how to win. The Chiefs haven't lost since last Christmas. To me, the Chiefs are in their own category. Like, it's not pretty. And guess who leads the NFL in interceptions since the start of last season?
Mahomes. Yeah, Mahomes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they run the ball. They know who they are. The defense is special. And it's not like the offense is god-awful. These teams where one unit is top three and the other is, you know, bottom three, and special teams is it. That doesn't do it for me. I think the AFC is as watered down as it's been in a long time. There's been this era of unprecedented, amazing quarterbacks there, you know, going back to Brady and Manning. And, like, Pittsburgh right now is probably the best team in the AFC North, and nobody even wanted them to play games this year. People wanted them banished to another league, and, you know, they didn't have a quarterback, and Mike Tomlin should be fired. And, I mean, who's the second best team in the AFC West? It's probably the Denver Broncos. You know, the AFC East, Buffalo's a good team. They're not great. They're not transcendent. And they haven't been able to do what they want to do in the playoffs. And, like, that might be the second best team in the AFC. Like, I have a hard time buying anybody. Houston's probably still going to run away with that terrible division, but they're really, really flawed, and they're not going to pick. They haven't, and they won't, and they're not going to pick up where they left off last year. So the door is sort of ajar for teams to make some noise. And, like, Denver could be the team. I talked about the Rams in the NFC. Like, I think Denver has more than a puncher's chance to beat the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore this weekend. I do, and that's if Lamar plays, and it's not guaranteed that Lamar's going to play. But Denver's defense is really good. Bo Nix the last 4
What's
weeks.
wrong with Lamar? What's wrong with Lamar?
Back, a knee. He hasn't practiced all week.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Supposedly he's going to do something on the field today, but they turned around and played Cincinnati in 5 days. And they just got beat up and whipped at the line of scrimmage by Cleveland on both sides of the ball.
All right, we landed in Bilbao. I had to take over the landing because we were just going too slow with the automatic pilot. But we are here in Bilbao, Spain, and this is where we will take off next time on Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 World Tour. We'll see you then.